What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2PN Chapter 21 New Partners and New Ships. There wasn't much treasure found on the Black Cat Pirates ship, about 3 million Baileys. There are only a few pirates who are as keen on finding treasures as Buggy, and most of them are robbing homes and properties. On the way back, the three little ones rushed over and ran up to Usopp, bowing at 90 degrees. "I'm sorry Captain, me too. The captain is a real man." It turned out that the three of them were still worried about Usopp and wanted to go to Kaya's villa early this morning to check on the situation. They happened to meet Kaya and Mary who had returned, and after questioning, they learned what Usopp had done. Maybe beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Kaya kept describing Usopp's bravery, and the others were moved by the words. The three little ones also understood that they had misunderstood yesterday, and after asking about the location, they came directly to apologize. "Pirates always carry loads like this, I'm used to it." Usopp spread his hands and replied with a helpless expression. "But I have one more thing to ask of you. I agree to anything." "Me too. Do we need to publicize the captain's heroic fighting appearance?" The three little ones raised their heads and couldn't wait to tell the villagers about this. "No, I hope you won't tell anyone about this," Usopp said seriously. "Let this be another one of my lies." Although the three little ones were puzzled, they still nodded, and then Usopp took them and talked endlessly about his heroic appearance in the battle. Everyone rested here for a day. Zoro and Nami both went back to Kaya's villa to rest. Nami lay on the bed and hugged the money bag tightly and refused to let go. On this day, there was also a boy wearing a straw hat in the village, shouting with Usopp. "The pirates are coming." Shin first went to demolish the earth current wall on the East Blue Bank, and then asked Melly about the phone bug. "What appeared in front of me was a pink, snail-like creature with a more anthropomorphic face. There were 10 digital buttons from 0 to 9 on the side of the snail shell, and a microphone above it. What a magical species." Shin stared at the phone bug with a surprised look on his face, then reached out and picked up the microphone on the shell. You can see that there is a phone line connecting the microphone and the snail shell. "Where can I buy this phone bug?" He knew the importance of information transmission and wanted one immediately. "You can usually buy it in larger towns, and the price is not too expensive. We happen to have a spare one here." Melly took out a silver-white telephone bug from the cabinet next to him. "If you need it, it will be given to you. How can this be so embarrassing?" Shin quickly picked up the phone call. At this time, Melly took out 2 more notes and handed them the letter. "This is the number of the phone bug, and the other is the number of the villa. If you need anything in the future, you are welcome to call." "That was a big help, Mary. Thank you. I just want to say thank you. Compared to saving my life, these small gifts are nothing." Wow, is this ship really for us? Consider it a thank you gift, please accept it." On the North Blue shore, the Black Cat pirate ship and the 2 small boats were no longer visible, and a sloop with a sheep's head at the bow was docked. "This is a thank you gift from the little rich woman to repay everyone." "Thank you. It's true that misfortunes never come singly." "Idiot, I can't be more grateful." After correcting the grammatical errors for his idiot captain, Shin looked at Mary in front of the ship. "Excuse me, Mr. Mary, for giving us such a wonderful ship again." Melly shook his head and said with a smile, "This is a boat I designed originally. I may not sail it to sea until I retire. It is better to leave it to you now than to follow a bad old man like me." Designing ships is just Mary's hobby. His main occupation is butler. He may not have the opportunity to sail this ship. He turned back and pointed at the sail. "Then let me introduce you to the operating system." No. Shin quickly waved his hand and refused. He was not good at this, so he pulled Nami over. "She is our navigator, just tell her about driving and operation." HMPH. A bunch of idiots. After hearing the letter saying that he was their navigator, Nami couldn't help but curl up the corners of her mouth and put on a smile. "Then it's up to you, Mr. Melly." Shin walked towards Luffy who was still thanking Kaya, reached out and pinched the captain's mouth to shut him up, and looked at Kaya who was smiling. "Speaking of which, does this ship have a name?" "Yes, Advance Melee." "Nice name, huh?" Shin suddenly heard a sound coming from the slope. He turned around and saw Usopp rolling towards him with a huge package on his back. "Ah, help me stop. Usopp, that fool." Kaya looked worried and covered her face with her hands, unable to bear to watch. Luffy and Zoro took a step forward, stretched out their feet, and stopped the Usopp ball. The 4 of them got on the boat first, and Usopp wanted to say goodbye to Kaya. After this incident, he finally made up his mind to go out to sea for adventure. "Usopp, have you decided to go to sea after all?" "Yes, I want to leave quickly before my determination wavers." Not hearing Kaya's reply, Usopp added, "Don't stop me." Kaya shook her head, already prepared for all this. "I won't stop you because I have a premonition. I'd be a little disappointed if you didn't stop me. When I come back, I will tell you an adventure story that is even more incredible than a lie." "Well, I'll be looking forward to it." After saying goodbye to his childhood sweetheart, Usopp looked at Luffy and the other 4. "You guys too, take care. I hope we have a chance to see you again." Why, I will be a pirate like you in the future." We may encounter you on the sea. What are you talking about? Do you want to leave your fighting partner so soon? Why don't you come up quickly? We are already partners, aren't we? The sea breeze came to his ears. Looking at the 4 people in front of him, Usopp's eyes gradually became moist and he couldn't help but jump. Ship. I'll be the captain. What a joke, I'm the captain. The ship gradually moved away, but Kaya was still reluctant to look back. Now that she was gone, she didn't know when the next meeting would be. Melly was about to persuade the young lady to go back when she saw a figure running on the sea. Hey, Miss Kaya. Usopp said he likes you. Shin's shadow clone stopped on the sea and shouted at the top of his lungs. The sound was just enough to reach the coast and the Melly. Ha ha ha, after hearing this, Kaya couldn't help but laugh and stood up to go back. Go back, Melly, I have decided that I want to be a doctor. Being a pirate must be hard, Usopp. Are you going to kill me, my friend? I just saw that you didn't want to express your love for me before you left. I just want to help you. Even if I have to say it, I have to say it myself. It doesn't matter if you use your clone to shout, damn Uchiha. Jeezing. I can't breathe, ha 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 ha. Ads by Big Gear. Chapter 22 New Pirate Flag and Member Introduction. Here, the phone bug and the number. Shin threw the phone and number to Usopp, who hurriedly caught it and looked at it carefully. What is this snail? Do you want it fried? Shin leaned on the guardrail, narrowed his eyes and said jokingly. You can eat it if you want, as long as you don't want to contact Kaya. Hey, why do you say that? Nami and Zoro were also attracted by their conversation at this time. Only Luffy was squatting in the corner and didn't know what he was doing. This phone bug has a call function. As long as you dial the corresponding number, you can make calls through the phone bug no matter how far apart you are. So convenient. Nami and the 2 looked at the silver-white little guy in front of them in surprise. Usopp immediately protected him and raised the note in his hand. What about this number? Yes, it's from Kaya's villa, she's almost home now. After hearing this, Usopp immediately rushed to the conference room with his phone in hand. It seemed that he had a lot to say to Kaya. You were obviously very chic when you left. Zoro folded his arms and leaned on the guardrail. Nami also had a smile on her face. It's best to be friends with childhood sweethearts. Maybe what he said in the previous letter scared him. Shin shrugged with an innocent expression. I just saw that they were very in love with each other but refused to express it, so I just wanted to help them. It may be a bit corny, but girls will always be happy when their sweetheart says I like you. I don't think you know how to understand girls. Then do you have a girl you like? Could it be someone like me? You took the opportunity to hug me earlier? I really have no choice. If I have 10 million belly, my sister can consider it. Watching Nami getting closer and closer, she finally wanted to be close to him, and the Bailey's golden light in her eyes almost blinded Sharingan. Shin pushed Nami's head away with a look of helplessness. First of all, I'm 3 months older than you. Secondly, I like mature ones. I'm not interested in little girls like you. Nami felt humiliated. What do you mean by a little girl? My size is the 9th letter of the alphabet, it's I. As she said that, she was going to lift up her top to prove herself. Shin was so frightened that she quickly grabbed the hem of her short sleeves. The last time the princess hugged her, it cost 5,000. This would be gone if she took a look at her little treasury. Believe it, big girl, it's done. The 3 people who heard the sound looked back at the same time and saw Luffy holding a piece of black cloth and unfolding it. How can there be no pirate flag on a pirate ship? Look, I drew the pirate flag. How to describe this pirate flag? It's probably as good as a third-rate painter who drank 3 bottles of vodka. This is our pirate flag. It's indeed scary, but I'm just scared of your talent. Although I was the first to join, is it too late to quit now? What? I obviously think the painting is good. After hearing everyone's rejection of his work, Luffy pouted and sulked. After reading the letter and taking a closer look at the abstract flag, I felt that something was missing. It would be nice if I changed it to a Sharingan with hedgehog hair and red eyes. How can I let you decide? If you ask me, I should change the background color to green and the crossbones on the back to 3 knives. Then I wanted to. How about adding a windmill on top of my head and drawing some oranges next to it? After intense discussion among the 3, they finally agreed on a plan. Change the background color to green, embellished with 3 oranges, change the crossbones on the back to 3 knives, have hedgehog hair on the head, and hang a windmill. The left eye is Sharingan and the right eye is Pele. The letter counted the 2 people's requests one by one, and the 2 nodded with satisfaction. The black cloth was spread directly on the ground. Yoshi, let's get started. No, I am the captain. Luffy threw himself directly on the black cloth to stop the crew's rebellion. Shin didn't really intend to do this, he just teased Luffy and patted Luffy's hat. Okay, we know, but that pirate flag just now definitely won't work. He stood up and looked at Zoro. Are any of you good at drawing? Nami and the 2 also shook their heads, but a voice came from the conference room. 20 years of graffiti experience on the line. Pung. The door to the conference room opened. Usopp leaned against the door frame, holding the elbow of his right arm with his left hand, making a fist with his right hand and pressing it against his forehead. My master painter Usopp took this job. How about it? Who asked you to draw yourself? Usopp's painting skills are really good, and the painting is lifelike. If it weren't for the long nose on it, everyone would accept it. Under the coercion of everyone, Usopp drew another picture, and this time it was much more normal. There is a straw hat representing Luffy on the head. It is different from the ordinary pirate flag, and there is a smile on the mouth. It is less scary, but it has the charm of Luffy. Yoshi, Usopp, go and draw another picture on the sail. With the logo on the sail completed, the Straw Hat Pirate's flag and pirate ship are finally completed. Catching Luffy, who wanted to go to the special seats, Shin prepared to hold a small meeting with everyone. There are quite a few of us, let's determine the division of labor and capabilities. Then he grabbed Nami, who didn't want to go to the meeting, and sat her down. Well, first of all, I am a generalist. I can fight, extract confessions, assassinate, undercover, and collect information. I can also treat general trauma. Me, I'm the captain. Luffy couldn't wait to speak, establishing his identity as captain. After patting Luffy on the head to signal that no one would steal his captaincy, Shin looked at Zoro. I am a combatant. Unlike the hedgehog who knows some tricks, I am responsible for fighting, because I need a place to exercise. I can also leave the work of the observation tower to me. Usopp, who was experiencing this battle for the first time, spoke nervously. I'm a sniper. Leave the long-range support to me. I can also serve as a boatman until I find a boatman. In the end, only Nami was left, and everyone looked at her. Nami originally wanted to say that he was a navigator, but a long-nosed shark face suddenly appeared in his mind, and he suddenly changed his words. I'm just cooperating with you, so no introduction is needed. After saying this, Nami couldn't help but feel regretful. After all, she had regarded everyone as her true partners. Come on, we have collected 100 million belly. Just buy the village back and you can truly join everyone. The atmosphere on the boat suddenly became quiet. Nami was thinking about something, and the fingertips on her arms turned white from the exertion she had to do. You are my navigator. Luffy suddenly stood up and said to Nami with a serious face. A smile appeared on Shin's lips. Do you think you can still escape now? I can't take care of the 3 idiots on the ship without you? Zoro draws the knife directly. Who are you calling an idiot? Low-level ninja. Luffy and Usopp also made faces while arm in arm with each other. Low-level ninja. Shin suppressed the anger of being humiliated by a few idiots. He couldn't tell that I was trying to comfort people. What a bunch of bastards. Have you always been so brave? I'm going to tell you something today. Don't mess with a ninja at sea. Looking at the people fighting in front of him, Nami's gloomy mood dissipated and she couldn't help but laugh. HMPH. A bunch of idiots. One person went up and punched him, and at the same time added a self-introduction. I'm a navigator, don't ask me about fighting, but I will send you safely wherever you want to go. Remember, never mess with a navigator at sea. Do you understand everything? 4 people with big bags on their heads. We got it, Miss Nami. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 23. A night talk between 2 people. What's wrong? Why don't you go to bed yet? Tonight, Shin was responsible for keeping watch. All 3 idiots had fallen asleep. Only Nami took advantage of the darkness to walk to the deck. Jumping down from the observation deck, Shin held a blanket in his hand, ready to put it on Nami. I remember there is a shower room on the ship. You can't ask me to heat the hot water this time, right? Nami did not refuse the blanket, but she did not look directly into Shin's eyes and turned to look at the empty sea. What a shame. I just want to blow some air. You have something on your mind, right? You've been absent-minded all day today. Shin sat on the guardrail and looked up at the sky. Tell me about it. After all, we are partners. Has anyone ever told you that girls sometimes need some time alone? I just know that what sad people need is someone to talk to. HMPH. You're obviously not much older than me. Why are you pretending to be mature? Do you remember? The first time we met. Without answering Nami's question, Shin recalled the first encounter between the two. That was under Alvida's boat. We fell from the sky, met and separated in a hurry. The most impressive thing was the second time. Your acting skills were really bad at that time. At that time, I just thought you were a pretty thief. Then at the port, I added a weird label to you. It was also with the buggy pirates that I completely changed my view of you. Kind, cunning, greedy for money, he is willing to risk his life to save Luffy, and he is equally willing to risk his life for the treasure. But you were also kind and didn't really take back the treasure left with the mayor. After getting in touch with you, I found that you were like a miser, always thinking about making money. But I also discovered that you were wearing ordinary clothes. You were even wearing a sailor uniform when we first met. Obviously she is at an age where she loves beauty, but she doesn't have a single piece of jewelry on her body. But you are also envious when you see Kaya's wardrobe, which means you don't really want to dress up. At that time, I was wondering if you had any hidden secrets and needed money urgently. During the day today, you changed your story and said that we are just a cooperative relationship. You have obviously regarded us as partners for a long time, so why did you suddenly break away from us? If it's just a family member who is sick and needs money urgently, there is no need to leave us alone. It's only possible that you are facing a very powerful enemy, an enemy that you think we can't defeat together, so you want to sever ties with us so as not to implicate us. At the same time, this enemy can be defeated or delayed through money, so you will be like a miser who can only get in and out. So, do you owe money to the underworld or is your family being coerced by bad guys? Nami, who had been listening quietly, snorted coldly, pretending to be fierce and said to the letter. Maybe I never considered you as a partner, but I was just using you? My eyes are called Sharingan. The letter suddenly opened Sharingan, and his red eyes stared at Nami in the darkness. Its ability is insight. Although it cannot see through people's hearts, many of your small actions also prove that you are not wary of us. Your body is trembling, Nami. The fact that you are not in a defensive posture means that you are not trying to fight back. If you want to cry, I can lend you my shoulder. Idiot. Don't look at girls' bodies casually. Nami slapped Shin off the boat and used chakra to stabilize his body. Shin did not choose to return immediately. This force was just to drive him away. Now Nami probably needs to be alone for a while. When the sobbing on the ship stopped, he jumped up and returned to the melee. He saw that Nami, who had been leaning on the guardrail, had sat on the deck, holding her legs curled up with both arms, like an injured animal. Like a kitten, she wraps herself in a blanket. My hometown is in Cocoja village, where there is a cruel ruler and a fishman pirate named Arlong with a bounty of 20 million. Ignoring the letter about reboarding, Nami said to herself. He requires the villagers to hand over life money every year, 100,000 for adults and 50,000 for children. I was forced to join them. They promised that as long as I earned 100 million belly, I could buy the village. If Luffy knew about this, he would definitely attack Arlong no matter what I said. I'm going to save enough money now, so give me some more time, okay? Don't tell this Luffy. I will come to you immediately after buying the village. As she talked, Nami cried again. This might be the first time she told others about these things. Nami lowered her body and wiped away her tears, and Shin said. What do you think Luffy will do if you leave without saying goodbye? He will definitely come to find you. I promise you not to tell this matter, but I hope you can take the initiative to tell Luffy. After helping Nami up, Shin's tone was a little helpless. Have more trust in us, we are very strong, go to sleep, don't catch a cold. Nami nodded, took 2 steps forward and then stopped. Thank you, Shin. We are partners, aren't we? This time Nami didn't reply. When he was about to reach the door, he stopped again and looked back at the letter. Aren't you going to take this opportunity to confess your love? Nami's face is no longer sad and gloomy, but has a little more blush, and the remaining tear stains make her look even more pitiful. I read novels circulated among pirates. Usually the hero Kakuzu should confess his love to the heroine at this time, right? Shin's face was serious and his eyes were straight. Reality is not the plot of a third-rate novel, and I said I'm not interested in little girls. HMPH, I also said that I am the 9th one. Is it because I feel a little regretful that I didn't see it during the day, so I told you this story again? You're so frank, Shin. Do you want to see it? I only need 100,000 belly. Nami held on to the hem of her clothes. Shin spread her hands and said helplessly. I speak from my heart. I like someone who is more mature. And 100,000 belly is too expensive. Nami's lips curved into a wicked smile, then 60,000 belly. It's not about money, 30,000 belly, I told you I like mature people. Then it's free this time. Come on, let's see. Nami pretended to lift up her shirt, preparing to send a wave of benefits to the letter. Earth style wall, HMPH. Nami didn't really show off her beauty, but she seemed to have discovered Shin's weakness. This ninja who pretended to be mature might still be an innocent boy. Turning around to go back to his room, Nami said again. Thank you, Shin. We are partners, aren't we? Ads by Bid Gear. Chapter 24 Rare Beasts and Treasure Chest. Uncle, it was a sunny day, and even the sea breeze was gentle. The sky was full of scattered white clouds, and only a thick black cloud covered an area of the sea. The surrounding sea was calm with slight waves, but in the area shrouded in dark clouds, it turned into thunderstorms, heavy rain and fierce sea winds. Is it really okay to go in that direction? Luffy and Usopp stood on the bow of the boat, and one look at the dark clouds in front of them showed that it was not a good place. Nami squatted on the deck and looked at the chart carefully, then stood up with excitement, took out his telescope and looked at the sea shrouded in black clouds, with a hint of excitement in his tone. It's unmistakable, that's the legendary Treasure Island. Although she confessed her heart to Shin last night, the treasure collection has not been completed yet, and Nami's money-grubbing character cannot be changed for a while. Legend has it that approaching this island will offend the gods. Boom. The melee had entered the sea area where there was a thunderstorm and heavy rain. There was a sound of thunder, and as it was approaching the legendary Treasure Island, Usopp was frightened and asked tremblingly. Is it really true, that legend of a god? It looks great. It is said that there are a lot of treasures up there. God, I wonder if it will give me the power of 6 paths. Do you only pray to others? Hedgehog head, things like gods sound worthy of being chopped off? The environment on the island is very atmospheric, with primitive and peculiar plants densely covered. It does not look like an inhabited place at all. Combined with the occasional flash of lightning in the sky, it creates a feeling of a forbidden land for the gods. The melee docked at the shore, and a shadow clone was left on the ship to guard the ship. The other 5 people all landed, but only Usopp was nervous. Luffy and Zoro don't care. Nami is attracted by the treasure. Shinya wants to meet the legendary gods, and the only one who can be scared by the carnivorous plants on the island is Usopp. It's just a bigger Venus flytrap, don't hug me. Shin had a long nose hanging on his body and said helplessly. Usopp refused to let go. His whole body hung on Shin's body, and he said tremblingly. Whatever is bigger, it can be called a human trap. Then he looked at the 3 people in front of him who showed no fear, and couldn't help but persuade him. It doesn't look like there is any treasure here. Let's leave quickly, everyone. That's not certain. Someone has already come to greet us. Shin groped his chin, and through Sharingan he could see a lot more things around him, which made Shin very interested. The 4 people were currently in an open space, surrounded by dense bushes and trees. Through the gaps, pairs of red eyes stared at them. Ah, what is this? A panda-colored bat flew onto Nami's head, scaring her so much that she did a laser dance on the spot. After driving the bat away, it hung directly on Shin's body. Looking at the 2 pendants, one on the left and one on the right, his arms were completely sealed. It's just a bat. It looks pretty cute. How cute. Nami and Usopp spoke at the same time, denying Shin's statement. It's really cute. Come on, shake hands. There is also a special dog at Luffy's feet, with a rooster comb on its head and rooster tail feathers on its tail. Luffy crouched down and tried to tame it. No. You're so cute. Zoro twitched the corner of his mouth. In front of him was a gorilla. The difference was that this gorilla had a hippopotamus face. It couldn't be said to be particularly ugly, it could only be said to be extremely ugly. Get out! Shouts echoed around the clearing. Luffy stood up, pressed his straw hat, raised his head and asked. Who are you? I am the protector of this island. If you don't want to die, get out of here. One after another, exotic animals popped up from all around, including a rhinoceros with a pouch and standing on its hind legs, an ostrich body and legs but a Madara horse neck and head, and an ordinary piglet with a lion's mane. I turned all the pirates who came here to hunt for treasure into animals. If you don't want to stay here, get out of here. The echoing shouts continued, trying to force everyone away, but after these animals revealed their true colors, even Usopp and Nami lost their fear. Hey, it looks pretty cute if you look closely, pung. Gunshots rang out, and a bullet was fired at Nami, who bent down to pick up the lion pig. With quick eyes and quick hands, Shin fired his shuriken and deflected the bullets. His eyes were fixed on one direction. Sharingan noticed that there was still a slight smoke of gunpowder there. A green plant that blended in with the environment swayed abnormally. Shin took out the shuriken again, but the difference was that there was a wire tied to the tail. Whizzing. Ah! Screams came from the bushes, and everyone looked over, only to see Shin walking into the bushes and pulling out a treasure box with an uncle's face. Uncle. Luffy and the other 4 tilted their heads and looked at the treasure chest man in Shin's hand tied with a wire in confusion. I thought he was some powerful person, but it turned out to be just an uncle who was pretending to be a god. Throwing the uncle to the ground, Shin said regretfully, he thought he was a god like Sage of 6 Paths. Luffy was very interested in the uncle and went up to scratch his green hair. Uncle, are you also a rare animal? No, I'm human. Nami also walked up and grabbed his green hair. No matter how you look at it, you are a treasure chest man. There's a reason for this. Usopp also walked up and scratched his green hair. What? It turns out you are the little man in the box. Yes, I have been carefully cared for since I was a child. In order to protect my family, I was locked in a treasure box. What a ghost, you told me I'm human. Zoro finally came over and scratched his green hair. So you are the so-called god, right? You really have no majesty. As I said, I'm a human being, and you guys, don't grab other people's hair. The treasure chest uncle's name is Carmen. 20 years ago, he was a pirate, and he and his partners came to this island where treasures were rumored to be placed. They found nothing and planned to leave, but young Carmen was unwilling to accept it. He found a smooth stone platform in the middle of the island. Climbing up the smooth stone wall, Carmen saw several treasure chests. Perhaps he was too excited and fell down before he could open them. He happened to get stuck in an empty treasure box below and fainted. When he woke up, his friends had already left, and he tried various methods but could not get out of the treasure box. The mountain wall was once because he was put into the treasure chest and could no longer climb up. For the next 20 years, he kept company with the rare animals on the island and threatened the pirates who came. Although he could not get the treasure box on the stone platform, he did not allow others to take it away. 20 years later, the body gradually grew together with the treasure chest. This is the stone platform with the treasure box on it. Carmen pointed to the towering stone platform in front of him and learned Carmen's story. Luffy immediately decided to help him obtain the treasure. Yoshi, leave it to me. Luffy stretched out his arms and grabbed the edge of the stone platform. It was a place where Carmen had not been on for 20 years. It was easy for Luffy. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 25 Sword God and Sword Saint. Yubu Yuan Mei Yuan Ting Yuan Du Jia Kun Rakuten Travel HK. 702 Hong Kong dollars Rakuten Travel. Ri Ben Xing Ne Ling Xian Wang Shang Lu Sheng Shi. What a pity that uncle didn't join us. 20 years have passed, and he may have lost the courage to be a pirate. Don't belittle people casually, green algae head. That uncle must have found a treasure worth protecting. But it's such a pity that the treasure I've been guarding for 20 years is actually empty. I still want to charge some handling fees. This is the real life of a pirate. There are exciting adventures and all kinds of accidents that fill your life. The Melee had already left the treasure island. Luffy had previously climbed onto the stone platform and found that the treasure that Carmen had guarded for 20 years was empty. He wanted to pretend to seize the treasure and leave a thought for the uncle, but the uncle saw through it at a glance. This kind of thing often happens. Pirates follow the treasure map to the island, but in the end they miss it. 20 years later, he also became good friends with the rare and exotic animals on the island. When faced with Luffy's invitation, he refused and decided to stay on the island and continue to act as the patron saint to protect these rare and exotic animals. Today is still a sunny day. Shin sat on the deck, unlocked the seal of the ninjutsu scroll, and prepared to concentrate on learning a genin jutsu. Although Shin masters most fire-style ninjutsu, it can be said that except for some fire styles that require blood or sage art, Shin masters all fire-style ninjutsu. But fire style alone is not enough. After all, we are pirates. Water style should have a wider range of application. Shin murmured to himself and began to read the water style part of the ninjutsu scroll. It is worth mentioning that Shin possesses 5 attributes of chakra. Among the many water style ninjutsu, Nobu immediately fell in love with a special ninjutsu, second Hokage, Senju Tobirama's Heavenly Cry, which is water style, but does not require any seals. Just put the chakra into your mouth and spray it out. The Heavenly Cry technique was used once when Senju Tobirama sneak attacked Madara. The specific training process was not mentioned, so this article will keep it simple. That's it, but it's not that simple. Tianchi needs to condense water into the size of 1,000 sticks and shoot it out. If the size is too big, a water ball will be sprayed out, and the penetrating power will be greatly reduced. After several attempts, Shin has almost mastered this technique. Of course, it is not as powerful as the second generation item. The next thing to do is to compress the water smaller and shoot it faster. But this is all something to be done later. Shin looked at another technique. Water style 5 Fu Jiao. He jumped from the boat and landed on the sea. He squatted down and put his hand into the seawater. As the chakra was released from his fingertips, 5 sharks formed from water were formed underwater. When he raised his palm, the shark did not dissipate because part of Shin's chakra remained in the shark's body. At the same time, by borrowing this part of chakra, Shin could roughly sense the aura of the creatures around the shark. Close your eyes and sense carefully. 5 water sharks aimed at a creature about 2 meters long and launched an attack. The water sharks roared silently and rushed towards the big fish. The sea surface glowed red, and a creature similar to a swordfish emerged from the water, with scars from being bitten on its body. It picked up the big fish as a snack for Luffy. Because he was learning ninjutsu, it took him a while to return to the melee, only to find that there was an extra guest on the melee. Wearing sunglasses with purple lining and a blue jacket, there is also a unique Chinese character, Hai, carved on the left side of his face. Holding the big knife, he kicked over the barrel in the corner. Get out of here, pirate. What are you doing? Who are you? Luffy also walked out of the kitchen on the second floor at this time and asked with a puzzled look on his face. The visitor had no intention of talking to Luffy. He brandished a machete and was about to attack, but was suddenly trapped in a water balloon. Water-style water prison technique. Hey, are you going to do something when we first meet? I remember we don't know you. Throwing the fish on the deck, Shin immediately went up and controlled the non-mainstream. Luffy would definitely not be hit by such an attack. The guardrail on the second floor was uncertain. He just got a new boat, and he didn't want to be like this. Damage occurs. The other 3 people also came out of the prescription at this time, and Zoro recognized the identity of the trapped person at a glance. Johnny. You're Johnny, right? Hearing Zoro's voice, which seemed to be that of an acquaintance, Nobu released his ninjutsu. Johnny knelt on the ground and choked several times. Damn, we're only a little bit close to winning. Then he looked up at Zoro. He showed a surprised expression. Brother Zoro. Why is Big Brother on this kind of ship? Johnny was originally Zoro's younger brother when he was a bounty hunter. Although Zoro didn't admit it, Johnny always called himself that. His partner Joseph, who was alive and kicking a few days ago, suddenly fell ill, turned pale and fainted several times. Slowly, the teeth began to fall out, or blood began to appear from the wounds. In order to let his partner breathe a sigh of relief, Johnny took Joseph to the bottom of a reef and wanted him to take a rest. But, just as I placed Joseph, a cannonball was fired from this ship. At this point, Johnny almost cried. The first shot hit the sea, and I thought it was a stray bullet. The second shot hit the rocks, and the 2 of us were almost buried alive. Luffy and Usopp opened their mouths. It looked like they were the culprits. The 2 people immediately bowed 90 degrees. Sorry, if apologizing is useful, why do you need marine? Shin. Can your green light cure Joseph? Zoro looked at Shin with a rare look of help. After all, the only treatment method he knew besides medical skills was healing jutsu. But there is nothing Shin can do this time. If it is a traumatic injury, he can still try. This is obviously caused by illness and he cannot solve it. Sorry Zoro, I can't fix it without finding the cause. Nami walked down at this time. She had rich sailing experience and recognized Joseph's symptoms at a glance. She helplessly said to the sailing idiots in front of her. This is scurvy. What? Johnny jumped up excitedly. Sister, do you know how to treat Joseph? Hearing the title of eldest sister, Nami subconsciously glanced at the position of the letter and puffed up her chest proudly. Luffy, Usopp, don't cry so sadly. Isn't there some orange in the cabin? Go bring it out and feed it to him. Instructing two idiots who thought they were prisoners to help, Nami explained. Scurvy was an incurable disease a long time ago, but it was finally discovered that it was just a lack of vitamins. Because previous ships could not preserve vegetables and fruits for a long time, sailors often got this disease during long voyages. Let Luffy and Usopp squeeze the green orange and drip the juice into Joseph's mouth, Nami continued. But as long as you supplement vitamins in time, you will generally wake up in a few days. And Joseph, who had just been told by Nami that it would take a few days to wake up, suddenly spit out the green orange in his mouth. Resurrection. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 26 Baratie, a restaurant on the sea, the beauty in Sanji's eyes. Full nutrition. Resurrection, what a great partner. Johnny and Joseph hooked up and performed a double spin on the Mary. How could it be possible to get better so quickly? Nami complained from the side. Then, I forgot to introduce myself, *2. The two suddenly stopped and made a pose. My name is Johnny. I'm Joseph. We're a duo of bounty hunters targeting pirates, *2. I used to be with brother Zoro, please give me more. Boom. Before he could finish the last sentence, Joseph, who was full of energy just now, fell down. No matter how good the effect of Ching-Chang is, it can't instantly restore him to full status. At night, after taking care of Joseph to lie down, everyone came to the kitchen and ate the grilled fish made by Nami. I didn't expect to encounter such a potential crisis during a long-distance voyage. Zoro said with emotion on his face. Not only do you need to make planned selections when replenishing supplies, but you also need to consider the nutritional mix. Really, I think it's fine if you have something to eat. Luffy said while chewing the fish meat. For him, as long as he can eat it, he doesn't care about nutrition. No one asked you how you feel, just keep eating. Shin picked up an apple and stuffed it in Luffy's mouth. Then the next goal is to find a chef. Okay Luffy? Not the musician you always wanted though. After swallowing the apple wholeheartedly, Luffy took a bite of grilled fish before answering Shin's question. But isn't it delicious if Nami makes it? Leave the cooking to Nami. Absolutely not. *2 Shin and Nami spoke at the same time, signaling with their eyes that Nami should speak first. I'm a navigator, not a chef. I don't understand nutrition. Besides, I don't want to deal with oil and dirt all day long. I'll get old quickly. Finally, Shin added with a pained expression. Nami charges money for cooking. I really don't have any money left. After eating the last bite of grilled fish, Luffy stood up and faced everyone. Yoshi, then our next partner is to find a chef. Johnny, who had been eating silently next to him, also stood up at this time. If you're looking for a chef, I know a good place. But it's very close to the Grand Line. The direction is northeast. This is East Blue's most famous restaurant, Sea Restaurant Baratie. Following Johnny's introduction, a huge ship appeared in front of everyone. The bow of the ship is a fish head with an open mouth, the stern is a fishtail, and there is a mast at the front and rear. The building on the ship has a total of 3 floors and is in the shape of a pyramid. Oh, what a big fish! Luffy twitched his nose, as if he had smelled the delicious food. The friends are all looking forward to this restaurant trip. But this is a famous restaurant on the sea, not only pirates, but also marines often visit it. There was a huge warship next to the melee, and it started attacking without saying a word. Boom! A cannonball was fired at the melee, and Luffy jumped up. What do you want to do to our ship? Rubber balloons. Taking in a large gulp of air, Luffy's belly swelled, and the cannonball hitting it seemed to hit a cushion and be bounced elsewhere. Boom! There was another loud noise, and Luffy, who had regained his body size, landed on the boat with a proud smile on his face. You know how powerful I am, you idiot. Instead of waiting for praise from my friends, I waited for Shin's fist. Look where you blew the shell. Hey, when did it happen? The shell that was deflected by Luffy arrived at Baratie's 3rd floor without any bias, and exploded, leaving a large hole with smoke still rising. Why don't you apologize quickly? I hope there won't be any victims. I understand. Luffy stretched out his arms and grabbed Baratie's mast, reached the 3rd floor, and walked into the breach. Hey, pirate over there, get out of the way, ah? There was also a pink-haired marine on the warship who was barking. Nobu's expression immediately changed. After all, they were the ones who launched the attack first. Water-style water dragon bomb technique. A huge water dragon emerged from the sea. Because it was at sea, this time the water dragon was particularly huge, almost the size of a warship. With Shin's anger, the water dragon crashed into the warship and cut it off. Instead of pursuing the soldiers who fell into the sea, everyone drove the boat to the entrance of Baratie. It can be seen from the boats docked outside that the business here is indeed very hot. When you walk into the restaurant, it is not very noisy and the diners are enjoying the food quietly. Before everyone could find a table to sit down, a man in a suit walked around in front of a few people. Ah, Destiny. Thank you for bringing my true love to me. How lucky I am today. Can you tell me your name? Beautiful lady. Ignoring the others, Huang Mao knelt down on one knee in front of Nami and held one of Nami's hands. It was the first time for Nami to experience this battle, and he replied blankly. My name is Nami. What a beautiful name, Miss Nami. Please do me a favor and taste my delicious food. Nami also came to his senses. Unlike the innocent boy Nobu, the person in front of him was a purebred pervert. He reached out and stroked the side of Huang Mao's face, putting on a charming smile. Hey, but the food here looks very expensive, of course it's free for you. Huang Mao's only exposed eye turned into a heart shape with a crazy expression on his face. Come in, Miss Nami. Turning sideways thoughtfully, Huang Mao guided Nami towards an unoccupied table. Hey, what about us? Ah, you guys please come in too. Huang Mao, who was very considerate to Nami, answered everyone's questions impatiently. When Huang Mao went to prepare the dishes, everyone sat down. Shin also specifically asked the surrounding customers for information about Huang Mao. Sanji, the sous chef here, is not good at cooking, but he is a lecherous person, and there are often rumors that he beats customers. An idea came to Shin's mind, the idea of eating and drinking for free. After discussing it with her in Nami's ear, Nami nodded and smiled evilly. Then he told Zoro and Usopp not to move their bodies too much for a moment, and not to say anything no matter how Sanji asked. Although the two were confused, they nodded in agreement. When Sanji came over with a dazzling array of ingredients, Shin quietly released an illusion. Magic. This is not technique. This is also the illusion that Shin learned in his free time on the ship, but with slight changes. Its original function is to put an illusion shell on the outside of things, making the target think that what they see is actually another thing. The letter has changed its scope of action so that it can also put a shell on the human body. As for the image of several people in Sanji's eyes now? Ah, I really deserve to die, just pay attention to Ms. Nami. But I have ignored you who are as beautiful as heavenly beings. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 27. The appearance of Ajin, the working king Luffy. What beautiful three ladies. I wonder if I can get the names of the three of you. The customers watched in surprise as Sanji courted the three of them. Only Nami was holding back laughter. Suppressing a smile, Nami stepped forward and patted Sanji on the shoulder and said, These three sisters are my companions. I wonder if they can be free? Of course. Beauty has privileges everywhere. I'll get ready right away. Sanji hurried back to the kitchen, and Nami finally couldn't help laughing and patted Nobu's shoulder hard. I really have your letter, and I can actually do this kind of thing. He was also very proud of his confidence, but he didn't show it, he said with an arrogant look. A ninja is capable of more than that. I'll show you the reverse harem technique later. But it's really weird. A grown man is so courteous to me. No, it's disgusting. I never want to do it again. Usopp's receptive ability is good, but Zoro's is not. He almost couldn't help but stab someone with a knife just now. While several people were waiting, one of them was wearing a gown with a red snake pattern on it and matching trousers with the gown. Wearing green clothes and a striped headscarf on his head, a thin-looking man walked into the store. Holding a pistol in his hand, he silently walked to a dining table and sat down, arrogantly putting one foot on the dining table. Everything is fine, hurry up and serve the food. The striped man's voice sounded weak, but his eyes were still fierce. Is this a restaurant? Welcome to Baratie. A chef wearing a restaurant uniform and with arms slightly larger than ordinary people walked up. Perhaps because the person in front of him was wearing shabby clothes, he asked again. You have the money to pay the bill, right? Snapped. The pistol was photographed on the table by the striped man. Is it okay to pay with bullets? A normal person might be frightened, but the chef didn't hesitate at all. He only heard that the striped man had no money to pay. You're a pauper, right? He made fists with both hands and hit the striped man on the head, but the fierce-looking striped man was an embroidered pillow and was knocked to the ground with just one blow. If you can't pay, then you are no longer a guest. The surrounding diners couldn't help but marvel at how powerful the chefs here were, and Sanji, who was carrying a lot of food, also saw this scene. Without asking why the three beauties turned into three big men, he silently placed the food on everyone's table and walked to the kitchen without saying a word. The striped man was thrown to the back door, while Luffy watched him from the second-floor deck. The back door opened, and Sanji placed a plate of seafood fried rice and a glass of water in front of the striped man, then leaned against the guardrail beside him without saying a word. Take it away. Are you humiliating me? After swallowing, the striped man still held on and said. Even if I starve to death, I will not eat the food that comes to me. Stop talking nonsense and eat quickly. To me, as long as you are hungry, you are a guest. I know what it feels like to be hungry better than anyone. It doesn't matter if you die, but you can only survive by eating. You can see a better tomorrow, right? Under the urging of his stomach, the striped man began to eat hungrily. It's so embarrassing, I thought I was really going to die. I cried while eating, and at the same time I didn't forget to express my affirmation. This is the best meal I've ever had. Sanji, who was smoking a cigarette at the side, also laughed. It's so delicious. Are you interested in chatting with our captain, Mr. Chef? The back door was opened again, and Shin walked out. When Sanji walked towards the back door with fried rice, he followed him. Captain? If it's Ms. Nami, I'd be happy to do it. No. Shin smiled and pointed to the second floor. He had noticed that Luffy was here too. He's already here. Luffy on the second floor stuck his head out with a smile on his face. Do you want to join us? Be the cook on our pirate ship? I reject. Hey, why? There's a reason I have to work in this store. Looks like the first recruitment didn't go well, Luffy. Shin said teasingly, remembering that Zoro was also reluctant to join at the beginning. Luffy jumped down from the second floor, but it doesn't matter, he will definitely be our chef. Don't talk to yourself there, you two bastards. Sanji couldn't help but complain, and suddenly remembered something he had forgotten. Speaking of which, where are the three beauties at the table with Miss Nami? This? You'll know it soon. Shin smiled at Sanji with a mysterious look on his face, and started making seals in his hands. Magic, this is not technique. Sanji's eyes only felt blurry. When he came back to his senses, the original letter, Luffy, and the striped man had disappeared. Instead, three more beauties appeared, exactly like the ones they saw at the dinner table. You. Are you? The cigarette he was holding fell to the ground, and Sanji looked shocked. This is Genjutsu, Mr. Sanji. Shin dispelled the illusion, walked up to Sanji and stretched out his hand. Uchiha Shin is a ninja. Ninja? Ninja? Yes, Shin is very powerful. Luffy looked proud and patted Shin's back. It can breathe fire, spit water, and have clones. It hurts so much, you bastard. Shin turned around and punched the idiot captain. Didn't I ask you to apologize? What was the result? Were there any victims? Holding his straw hat, Luffy remembered his identity at this time. Yes, there is a one-legged uncle who was affected. He wants me to work here for a year to pay off the debt. Shin, think of a way, I still want to take risks. Sanji interrupted at this time and said, the uncle you were talking about is the head chef here, Jeffu. If you were planning on opening this store, you'd better give up. That uncle was once a very powerful pirate. Shin pressed Luffy's head and made a 90-degree bow. That was just a stray bullet. I'm very sorry that my captain caused you trouble. But 1 year is really too long. Luffy raised his head and said aggrievedly. How about 10 days? Sanji lit another cigarette, stood up and answered Luffy's unreasonable request. How is that possible? It's outrageous that a year has 10 days. 1 week then, isn't this becoming less and less, bastard? Shin pretended to have a helpless expression at this time and spread his hands. There's nothing you can do, Luffy, just work hard. If it takes a year, we won't be able to wait here for you forever. Looks like a new captain needs to be chosen. I think Nami is quite a leader. Let's have a show of hands later. I totally agree, help me vote for Miss Nami, if Miss Nami were the captain. It's not impossible to consider joining you. No, I am the captain. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 28. Sanji's past the striped man, also known as Agent, left on the boat provided by Sanji, and Luffy also began his working career. Shin found the chef here, Jeffu. With 2 golden beards tied into braids, a very tall chef's hat, and a wooden prosthetic leg on his right foot, he looks more like a pirate than a chef. Of course, Shin didn't come here just to see what Jeffu looked like, he said politely. Excuse me for disturbing you, Mr. Chef, my captain has caused you a lot of trouble earlier, I'm sorry. First he bowed and apologized to his idiot captain, and then got down to business. But we can't really stay here for a year. Please tell us the amount of compensation and I will pay it as soon as possible. Of course Shin won't wait for Luffy here for a year. There are still some Nami's treasures on the ship. If it can't be done, he can just go out and fight some pirates with bounties on his head. Jeffu carefully looked at the young man in front of him and stroked his raised beard, as if he was thinking about something. You really wanted to recruit Sanji into your gang just now, right? After a long silence, Jeffu finally said his first sentence. There is no need for compensation, as long as you can impress Sanji and take him out to sea. Is this really okay? Isn't he the sous chef here? That kid's future shouldn't be in this ordinary hotel. If possible, take him away. What are you talking about, bastard old man? I will never leave here even if I die. Sanji suddenly rushed in and interrupted the conversation between the two, shouting at Tetsuo. You are a guy who often teases and beats customers. I should have kicked you out a long time ago. Jeffu didn't say anything and kicked him directly. Sanji didn't dodge and was kicked to the ground. After getting up and patting the dirt on his body, Sanji lit a cigarette, stared into Zafu's eyes, and said in a low voice. No matter what you say, I will never leave, HMPH, bastard boy. Did something happen between you? Why is one determined to chase me away, but the other refuses to leave? After Sanji left, Shin asked doubtfully. After being beaten like this, an ordinary chef would have resigned long ago. Sitting on the chair again, Tetsuo recalled with a face full of stories. 13 years ago, I had just returned from the Grand Line and was leading my men to rob a passenger ship. It was also at that time that I met that kid Sanji. He couldn't even hold a kitchen knife, but he dared to attack me. He was still shouting that I must find all blue, but then a big tsunami hit and he was swept underwater. Maybe I was stupid for a moment, or maybe I saw that he had the same dream as me, so I jumped into the sea to save him. I have good water skills. I caught him in such chaotic currents. The anchor chain broke one of my legs. The two of us were also carried to an uninhabited reef by the waves. I left all the food to him and placed a large bag of treasures beside me. After about 70 days of this, that kid finally couldn't bear it anymore, because I lied to him before and said that what I left here was also food. He was about to attack me with a knife. To be honest, I couldn't move at all. The last thing was easy. He burst into tears after discovering the truth. Thinking about it, he was still cute as a child. Later we encountered a passenger ship and we were saved. I stopped being a pirate and opened this Baratie. Now, that bastard probably feels indebted, so he stays here all the time. At this point, Jeffu sighed. Take him away if you can. I don't want to receive any more complaints from female customers. I see. After hearing the story between the two of them, Shin had a great change in his view of Sanji. He originally thought he was a lecherous cook, but later he became a kind-hearted and lecherous cook when he served people food. Now, he probably has a kind-hearted and grateful heart, cook. Turning around to leave, he did not forget to add one last sentence. I'll ask you to take care of my captain these 2 days, so that he and Sanji can have better contact. Mainly because we couldn't afford it, we shook our heads, put away our little thoughts, and left after receiving a positive reply. As soon as they arrived on the first floor, they saw Luffy being forced to drink water by Zoro, while Nami and Nami were laughing. He walked up and punched Luffy first. Without even thinking, he knew that Luffy had been caught doing something bad. He grabbed Luffy's back collar and pulled him outside. So that's it, that uncle is really a good person. Idiot, I didn't ask you to lament this. Anyway, are you sure you want to make Sanji our partner? Yeah, he will be the cook on our ship. Then make good use of the opportunity I've won to do some odd jobs, and try your best to get close to Sanji, Captain. Oh, leave it to me. One more thing. I asked the chef here, the staff meals here are free. Staff meals? Free. That's right, try your best to eat it, Captain. Oh see. Luffy's eyes lit up and he walked to the kitchen aggressively. Shin followed him slowly back to the dining table where Nami and the other two were sitting. The food on the table was almost eaten. Zoro and Usopp were leaning back on their chairs leisurely and chatting. Only Nami thoughtfully left some food for the letter. What was our ninja-sama busy with just now? Pushing a piece of steak in front of Shin, Nami asked curiously. And Luffy, is he really going to be here for a year? We just went to find our new partner. Shin took the steak and started eating it immediately. The food here was indeed great. He also didn't forget to answer Nami's question. As for Luffy, if everything goes well, his part-time job will be over soon. 3 days passed in a row, Luffy was still working, and everyone had no choice but to stay here. Johnny and Joseph had been responsible for guarding the ship, and they did not forget to pack some food for them every time they returned. Logically speaking, except for Nami, the rest of the Straw Hats should not have such financial resources to spend money here all the time. The treasures taken from Buggy agreed to be divided equally, and their share was left on the island to help the citizens rebuild the town. It was agreed before the war that all the Black Cat Pirates' treasures would belong to Nami. Shin's small coffers were also emptied by Nami, not to mention Luffy and Zoro, and Usopp only prepared some change. But, under the temptation of Nami's beauty and Shin's occasional transformation technique and illusion, everyone's consumption was paid by Mr. Sanji. But tonight, Nami quietly drove Johnny and Joseph's boat away from the melee. She was reading the letter on the ninjutsu scroll under the moonlight on the observation deck and heard the movement. A shadow clone was assigned to guard the boat. The letter gathered the chakra at the soles of his feet and followed the boat quietly. The two of them had talked once before in the night, about Nami's hometown and the story of Arlong. Now Nami left the melee alone. Shin was actually a little afraid that Nami left quietly. Hopefully not. Have more confidence in your partner Nami. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 29. The second night talk under the moonlight. A small boat sailed on the calm sea. There was a girl with short orange hair sitting on the boat. Driven by the weak sea breeze, the boat slowly and steadily sailed towards a pirate ship. This is a dhow, and it is also a newcomer who wants to enter the Grand Line. It stops temporarily for a night's rest while passing by Baratie. Most of the guests stayed away from pirates, and few ships docked in Baratie for one night. They usually came on the same day and left after eating. Therefore, the night watchmen on the ship are not very vigilant. After all, most of the people who come here are ordinary people, at most a little rich. Nami had obviously calculated this correctly, and the boat docked silently beside the pirate ship. Years of being a thief made Nami extremely agile, and he reached the pirate ship with the help of a rope. Sure enough, the night watchman did not find her. With the cover of the night, Nami searched the ship silently and quickly, and finally found the few treasures on the ship. With this money, it will be enough for 100 million belly. The firelight reflected the excitement on the girl's face. After so many years of hard work, she could finally buy the village. What are you doing on our ship so late, you bastard thief? A big and thick pirate appeared behind Nami. It seemed that not all of them were unwary. Without giving Nami a chance to quibble, the pirate raised his mace and smashed it down. The skills he had developed over the years allowed Nami to dodge the blow nimbly. He got out of the cabin and ran to the deck. As long as he boarded the small boat, he would be safe. The flexibility of such a big ship is definitely not as fast as that of a small boat, and pirates also need reaction time. But the blow just now also woke up the night watchman outside. Standing on the observation deck, he had already shouted and took out a firecracker and pointed it at Nami. "There is a thief!" Boom! With the pirate's sharp shout, a bullet was fired at Nami. Fortunately, it missed, but it also made Nami stagger. Due to this delay, the mace pirate had already arrived behind Nami, raised his weapon and was about to attack again. Boom! The Nami in front of him disappeared in an instant, and the attack hit the deck, creating a hole in the air and causing a huge roar. "Hey, hey, hey, don't do such dangerous things quietly," Shin said helplessly, and hugged Nami like a princess, taking the small package containing the treasure that she never let go of. Nami also knew that she was in the wrong, so she blushed and said nothing. "Sorry, my navigator caused you trouble." Although they were enemies, Shin still greeted him politely. "I am Uchiha Nobu, a ninja. Let's discuss compensation." At this time, there were also a dozen pirates gathered on the deck, led by the man holding the mace. He frowned, protected everyone in front of him, and said with a fierce face, "I don't see that your boy is quite aware of current affairs, considering the treasure that the girl just stole and the damage to the deck. I'll just charge you 5 million Baileys. Okay, then let's calculate the losses of my navigator." All the pirates looked puzzled, not understanding where a thief could make such losses. Shin put Nami down and raised his fingers to list them one by one. "First of all, our navigator's clothes were damaged on your ship. They're famous brands. That's 1 million Baileys. Second, my navigator said that a necklace with gems was lost here. I hope you can find it and return it. Third, the fire gun attack and mace attack just now caused a great mental blow to her." Shin then turned to look at Nami. "How much are you going to charge for mental damages?" Nami raised a finger, indicating 10 million. Shin nodded and understood what she meant. "Then 100 million Baileys. Boy, you were here to cause trouble on purpose, right?" The surrounding pirates also saw that the hedgehog in front of them had no intention of compensating. Everyone gathered around and prepared to attack. "Hey, you're not stupid. Bye," Shin first said with a mocking look, then picked up Nami again, jumped back and left the pirate ship, returning to the boat. Seeing the pirates sticking out their heads and raising their blazing guns to attack, Shin immediately formed a seal. Water-style water dragon bomb. A huge water dragon emerged from the sea and destroyed the pirate ship with ease. After all, we are at sea, so it is not easy to release water style. The water dragon struck back and forth until it completely destroyed the pirate ship. All the pirates on the ship were left in the sea and completely disappeared with the dive of the water dragon. "So, don't you think you should say something?" Ever since leaving the pirate ship, Nami has been keeping her legs crossed and silent. "With these, it's enough for 100 million Baileys, right?" Are you planning to get the money and leave quietly?" "Yeah." Nami shook his head in denial. "Then why do you have to do it by yourself? It's very dangerous, idiot." "Because, I don't want Luffy and the others to know about me yet." "Why?" "Because Luffy will definitely be in a hurry to defeat Arlong. But I want to try to see if I can buy the village. I'm afraid one of you will die because of me." As she spoke, Nami's voice became panicked and sad. The shadow brought by the fishmen on her could not be dissipated in just a few days of adventure. "Oh," Shin sighed and punched Nami on the head. "Idiot, I told you to have more trust in your partners. So what was your original plan? I was going to let you use Shadow Clone to transform into me and stay on the ship. Then you haven't told me what you're doing tonight, you idiot." Nami received another punch on the head. "It hurts. Stop hitting me." "That's good, I'll tell you the truth, but, Shin, you have to promise me." "What?" "Until Arlong breaks his promise, please hold Luffy and others back from taking action." "That's fine, but I really don't think Arlong will keep his promise. Please, it would be best if we could solve it without bloodshed. What if Arlong really didn't keep his promise? Then I will be the first to attack Arlong. It's not your turn to be number one, it should be me or Luffy who takes the lead. How many times have I told you to have more faith in your partners? Fool, I told you not to hit me in the head. This is the third time. Is there anything wrong with my brother educating his sister? You're just 3 months older than me, so why are you pretending to be mature? You shy and innocent hedgehog. I am a warrior who has always pursued pure love. TCH, you're a shameless guy, huh? I'm just not interested in you. I've already told you that I like mature people, yellow-haired girl. This is also the third time. Ads by Big Gear. Chapter 30 Krieg attack. Nami finally decided to wait until the chef came on board before telling everyone. After a few days of contact, she had accepted Sanji as a partner. Although Sanji never let go, things soon took a turn for the better. The next day, white mist filled the sea. On a normal day, guests might feel that it was really atmospheric. But today, the guests in the restaurant were in panic because a ship was coming. The prototype shield is on the bottom, with a skull on top, and hourglasses hanging on both sides to demonstrate to the enemy, the overlord of the East Blue, the great pirate with a bounty of 17 million, Admiral Krieg. Although the pirate ship he was driving was in tatters, it was still several times larger than Baratie, and it docked next to Baratie with a sense of oppression. It looks like a very important guy has appeared. Unlike other guests, Shin's eyes lit up in the restaurant. Except for one attack last night, he had not done anything for 3 or 4 days, and his body was almost rusty. 5,000 people, it sounds like they can kill for a long time. Such a powerful pirate must have a lot of treasures. Hey, that's Krieg. Legend has it that he has 5,000 men and a fleet of 50 pirate ships. Don't look so interested. While several people were chatting, the legendary Krieg also came to the restaurant with the support of one person, Ajin. He was tall but breathless, with a bandage on his head. The first words he spoke broke the remaining momentum. Hug. I'm sorry, can you give me food and water? After just saying a word, his body began to tremble, as if he had lost a lot of strength. I will give you the money, as much as you want. I haven't eaten in days. Anything, please. Krieg begged everyone with a weak and sincere expression, while a kin beside him had a sad expression, unable to bear to see his captain so humble. Sanji walked back to the kitchen silently, and Krieg collapsed on the floor. It's really unimpressive. Is this the legendary Krieg? Zoro said with a dissatisfied look on his face. He wanted to move his body after not doing anything for a few days. Shin was eating Haagen-Dazs in his mouth. In the past few days, he also discovered that he has a hobby of eating desserts. Maybe he's hungry, but he can definitely ask Ajin to buy it. Aren't you afraid of accidents if he drags his weak body here in person? The chefs who were watching also saw Krieg's weakness and blocked him in an attempt to drive him away. Ajin was kneeling aside and promised earnestly that they were just here to ask for a piece of food, and would leave immediately after eating, and would never do anything to anyone else. The chefs naturally didn't believe it. The legendary Krieg was sinister and cunning, and it was impossible for them to do this business. What are you doing, Sanji? At the end of the group of chefs, Sanji was carrying a large basin of fried rice and a bottle of wine, apparently about to deliver it to Krieg. There's a hungry guest there. Don't do anything stupid, that's a pirate. Get away. Kicking away Patty who was blocking him, Sanji silently came to Akin and Jin. Here, Jin, take it to him to eat. Without saying a word, Krieg grabbed it and ate it with big mouthfuls. Delicious. So delicious. Thank you very much. You're such a cheating cook, huh? What's going on? As expected of the cunning Krieg, he stood up after finishing his meal and attacked his benefactor with his arms. However, the figure of Sanji in front of him had disappeared, and he himself almost fell to the ground again because of this attack. Hey, this time you look like a big pirate. A voice came from the side of Krieg, and in response to the voice, Sanji was held in Shin's arms like a princess, and was saying hello warmly. I am Uchiha Nobu, a ninja. Put me down quickly, bastard hedgehog-head. Sanji, who had never experienced a princess hug since childhood, panicked and broke away from Shin's arms. This is different from what we promised, leader. The condition for me to bring you here is that you must never attack this place. Krieg, who had regained his life, grabbed Ajin with one hand and flipped him to the ground. Ignoring the guests who fled the restaurant, he raised his head and said to the chefs in front of him. What a nice ship. It's mine from now on. I still have 100 men, all of whom are hungry and seriously injured. Now, prepare food and water for 100 people, and then please get out of here. Impossible. Although the chefs around him were scared, they had the courage to reject Krieg's request. Only Sanji, who was beside Shin, walked to the kitchen. Hey, are you still ready to do good deeds? They're enemies now? To me, as long as you are hungry, you are a guest. You are so kind-hearted. Is it okay for me to beat them to death after you feed them? Then they are at least full of ghosts. However, the chefs around him did not intend to let Sanji enter the kitchen, and gathered around him to stop him from colluding with his enemies. While the two sides were confronting each other, Jeffu walked out of the kitchen with a large package in his hand. This is food and water for 100 people. Get out of here as soon as you get it. Are you, red-footed Tetsuo? I didn't expect you to be alive, the legendary chef captain who is famous in the Grand Line for his kicking skills. As long as I have your voyage diary, I can definitely return to the Grand Line. Climb to the top of pirates and become the Pirate King. That won't work, it's me who wants to become the Pirate King. Luffy, who had been watching the show, rushed out instinctively and shouted his declaration loudly. Hearing this, Krieg sneered. The Grand Line is not something a brat like you can conquer. Our fleet of 50 ships was completely wiped out in just 1 week. So what, I will definitely become the Pirate King. Krieg smiled mockingly and ignored Luffy. He carried the package and prepared to return to the ship. He first fed his remaining 100 men. Jin, who stayed in the restaurant, looked sad and said with a trembling voice. Sorry Mr. Sanji, it's all my fault. I didn't expect things to turn out like this. There's no need for you to apologize for being a walk-on. Sanji didn't speak, so Tetsuo answered for him. The chefs here act according to their own will. That's all. Jeffu advised the other chefs to leave quickly if they were afraid, and the chefs were brave enough to stay. Sanji also stepped forward and said to Jin, "It is my duty as a chef to feed the hungry. But what comes next are well-fed predators. If you want to plunder this store, I will kill you without mercy even if it's you, Jin. Look, let me just say this guy is pretty good, I don't care if he's okay, but we need to run away quickly." Calm down, even Krieg is bruised and bruised. That's right, Usopp. Just like the letter said, have more faith in your partners. Don't just use my words to educate people, Nami. It's obvious that I will feel more handsome if I say it. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 31. Hawkeye attacks Krieg's men devoured the food and waved their weapons aggressively, preparing to follow the captain and seize the hotel in front of them. But no one noticed a small boat coming from the side of their ship, and sitting on the boat was a man carrying a black sword on his back. Two invisible swords flashed, and Krieg's dream of reconquering the Grand Line was shattered, and the already dilapidated ship was instantly broken into 3 pieces. Zoro noticed something, his muscles tensed, and he clenched the Wado Yimanji in his hand, unable to hide his excitement. Coming. What happens? Krieg's boat split. Such a big movement outside was naturally noticed by everyone in the restaurant, and they swarmed out to check the situation. The 5 Shin people followed the crowd and discovered that Johnny and Joseph had also arrived. "Brother, are you okay?" The 2 people guarding the ship saw the arrival of Krieg's pirate ship, so they drove the boat over to check the situation. Unexpectedly, Krieg's ship broke apart in the blink of an eye. A small boat passed leisurely through various fallen wreckage, and sitting on the boat was the legendary world's greatest swordsman. Dracula Mahawk. He has short black hair, sharp yellow eyes like an eagle, a short beard, a black hat with white fluff on his head, a burgundy patterned shirt, a black windbreaker, white trousers, and black boots. There is a cross knife hanging on his chest, and the world's most powerful black knife, Yi, is carried behind his back. A pirate who fell into the sea asked unwillingly, "Why are you chasing us? From the Grand Line to the East Blue, what is your purpose?" Eagle Eye glanced at the pirate who was speaking and said casually, "Kill time. What a joke, for such a ridiculous reason." Krieg's face was broken, and it was difficult to accept that his fleet was completely destroyed for this reason. At this time, Zoro had left Baratie and came to a large piece of debris. "Hey, you are very free, are you interested in competing with me?" "I have no interest in fighting ants. The famous pirate hunter in East Blue is just an ant in the eyes of Hawkeye, a stronger ant at best." Zoro was not discouraged after receiving this comment. He put on a dark green headscarf tied to his arms and spoke excitedly. "I set sail to see you. What is the purpose?" "The strongest." Coming to the wreckage, he looked at Zoro casually, and Hawkeye said with a little pity, "Pathetic weakling, if you were really a first-class swordsman, you would see the huge gap between us. Dare you point your sword at me? Should I say you have courage, or are you just ignorant?" "It's for my ambition." Zoro took up the stance of the 3-sword style. "There is also a promise with my best friend," and Hawkeye slowly took off the cross hanging around his neck and unsheathed the knife. It wasn't really a dagger, it could just be said to be a small fruit knife. "What do you mean? It is different from the wild beasts that try their best to fight the lion and the hare. Unfortunately, I don't have a smaller knife." Hawkeye spoke with a helpless expression, as if taking out such a knife was a sign of respect to Zoro. "Don't blame me if you get killed later." Without saying anything, Zoro unleashed his ultimate move, Ghost Slash. The 3 knives slashed at Hawkeye with the aura of victory, but the opponent only had a pitiful knife. "Oh frog in the well, come and see how big the world is." Ghost Slayer. Clang. The knife accurately touched the intersection of the 3 knives, easily blocking Zoro's attack. The cold light of the blade reflected the disbelief on Zoro's face. "The world can't be so far away." Zoro stepped back and attacked again. He had not trained for so many years to be played with by this kind of toy. The sound of swords clashing was endless. Zoro's 3 knives and Hawkeye's toy knife kept colliding. It's not that Zoro didn't want to attack Hawkeye's body, but that Hawkeye saw through every Zoro attack and accurately blocked it with a toy knife. The famous pirate hunter in East Blue was played with by Hawkeye like a child, unable to break through that little knife no matter what. Pung! Hawkeye's casual counterattack knocked Zoro to the ground. Zoro stood up again, his mind already in confusion, and the 3 knives attacked randomly. What a rough swordsmanship. He dodged sideways and hit Zoro in the back of the head with a hand knife, knocking him to the ground again. I don't know if it was his dream that was shattered, or the attack just now that left Zoro exhausted. He stood up again and prepared to attack, but with just a sideways glance from Hawkeye, he collapsed to the ground, looking up at the sky and breathing heavily. "What are you carrying? What are you longing for at the end of your strength?" "Weak. How dare you say that my eldest brother is a weakling? Damn you. Let you know how awesome it is." "Stop, Joseph, Johnny." Johnny and Joseph, who wanted to rush out and take action, were pulled back one by Luffy and Shin, and were pinned down. "This is Zoro's fight, don't bother him." Luffy suppressed his anger and grinned at the battle in front of him. Shin also lost his usual laughter and opened his Sharingan, looking at the battlefield indifferently. Nami and Usopp were beside them, and they couldn't believe that Zoro, who had seemed so powerful since he went to sea, would be in such a mess. After taking a breath, Zoro climbed up and raised the 2 knives above his head and carried them behind his back. Tiger Hunt. Kai. Without dodging, the knife penetrated Zoro's left chest, where the heart was. Hawkeye raised his head curiously and asked, "Do you want to be stabbed through the heart? Why don't you retreat?" "I don't know, I just feel like taking a step back here. Those important oaths so far will all disappear, and I will never be able to stand in this position again." "Yes, this is called defeat, then I can't even retreat." "You won't retreat even if you die? Better dead." With the knife drawn out, Hawkeye slowly backed away. This was the first time he looked at Zoro because of his strong heart. "Boy, tell me your name." "Roronoa Zoro." One knife points to the upper right, the other points to the lower right, and the handles of the two knives are stuck together. This is his strongest secret. And Hawkeye also pulled out the black sword knight carried on his back. He recognized Zoro's will. "I will remember you, the long-lost strong man, for the etiquette of a swordsman. I will use this world's most powerful black knife to kill you in the sea." "That's so grateful." Spinning the two knives in his hands, Zoro rushed towards Hawkeye with unmatched momentum. Three swordsman style second truth 3000 worlds. Jung. The two passed each other, and the world seemed to stop at this moment. As the two knives in his hands shattered inch by inch, Zoro also had a long wound on his chest. Lost. He put Hedao Yuen into the scabbard and turned to face Hawkeye. "What's the meaning? The scars on the back are a swordsman's disgrace. Have the guts." The black knife Yi slashed across Zoro's chest mercilessly, from the top of his left chest to the bottom of his right abdomen. Blood spurted out, and Zoro himself fell into the ocean. Zoro. Brother. Compound Ninjutsu Water Thunder Dragon King. Rubber Rocket Launcher. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 32 The Flame Monument Rings. A huge water dragon emerged from the sea. Its clear body was still flashing with blue-white electricity. It didn't pause. It just took shape and headed towards the Eagle Eye. Being number one in the world was not just a boast. Hawkeye just swung his knife and shattered the Thunder Dragon. He sidestepped to avoid Luffy's rubber rocket launcher. He signaled to the two people who still wanted to take action to calm down. "Thank you for watching until the end. Don't worry, your partner is not dead yet." As if to confirm Hawkeye's words, Zoro, who was rescued by Johnny and the two, coughed up a mouthful of blood, and was helped to the boat that Nami and the two came from before he could barely stabilize himself. "It's too early for you to die now. See yourself clearly, see the world clearly, and become stronger. No matter how many years pass, I will always be waiting for you in this strongest position. Beyond this sword, beyond me." Roronoa Zoro. After Nami's emergency treatment, Zoro finally woke up. He slowly raised the word, Wado. Road. "Luffy. Does it make you worried? Would it bother you if I didn't become the strongest swordsman in the world?" This man, known as Warcraft, finally couldn't help but shed tears after experiencing a tragic defeat. "I won't lose again, before defeating him and becoming the world's greatest swordsman. I will never lose again. Do you have any objections?" One Piece. The disastrous defeat did not knock him down, but made him realize the huge gap between himself and the world's number one. Luffy also laughed when he heard this. "No, nice team." After saying this, Hawkeye prepared to leave. He was here to kill time, and meeting Zoro was already an unexpected surprise for him. As for Krieg, who was shouting behind him, who cares what the ants think? Shin first stepped into the water and came to the boat. Nami had already performed emergency treatment on Zoro's wounds. A green light shone in his hand. Fortunately, the blow did not damage the bones or internal organs, and was still within the processing range of the healing jutsu. No need to treat this place yet. Shin was about to treat him when Zoro suddenly stopped him. "Are you disappointed in me, hedgehog-head? There are some, right? Those few words you shouted just now are quite cool. Why don't you include my name?" While treating the injury on his left chest, Shin answered Zoro's question with an unhappy expression. "I'm the senior who joined before you. You're just a pink eye. Why are you pretending to be a senior?" "Huh? Seeing how badly you were injured this time, I won't care about you anymore. Is this chest injury really not in need of treatment?" "Ah, leave it so that I can always remember my weakness." "That's up to you." After Shin took care of Zoro's injury, he realized that the situation had changed drastically. There was a circle of damaged fin decks around Baratie. Ajin was holding a crutch with an iron ball on the top and straddling Sanji. He was crying bitterly. Luffy stood aside and watched the show. "It's really confusing. Then next, I have to move my body too." After twisting his neck, Shin told the people on the boat. "Take care of yourselves. It's okay to throw Zoro out as a shield if necessary." "Asshole." An instant came to Luffy's side, patted Luffy's head, and Shin asked curiously. "What's going on here, Captain?" "Here is Iron Wall Man, Ajin." Luffy frowned and thought about it carefully. His face almost turned red, and he finally managed to squeeze out a few key words. Okay, don't embarrass yourself." Shin sighed helplessly. His captain's language organization ability was definitely at a disadvantage. "Anyway, there's nothing wrong with beating everyone except the chef, right?" "Yeah, Jin is a good person too. You can't beat him." "Understood, Captain." She instantly came to behind Jin. Although Luffy said not to hit him, he couldn't watch Sanji lying on the ground. Can you get up? Jin, your current posture is very unsightly. Before Shin could make a move, Jin plopped down on his knees and faced Krieg. Ignoring the conversation between the two, Shin extended his hand to Sanji. What a mess, you perverted cook. You don't have to worry about it, hedgehog head. Getting up, Sanji took out a cigarette and stretched his bruised body. This restaurant has nothing to do with you, right? Why do you want to get involved? For my captain, of course. In just 4 days, Luffy ate 800,000 Bailey's worth of ingredients. This was only counting the raw materials, not counting the chef's processing fees, plus broken plates, customer complaints. Thinking of these letters gave me a headache. Although Jeffu might not care much about them, he always felt a little embarrassed. Boss Jeffu. If I repel them, can Luffy's debt be wiped off? Of course. If you can do it, Captain, can you hand over all the enemies here to me? Luffy started up, grinning, and kept patting Shin's back. Please, Shin, as long as I win, I won't have to work part-time. Regardless of Sanji's resistance, Luffy directly grabbed him and returned to where Tetsuo and others were. What are you doing? That's Krieg. The hedgehog is very dangerous alone. No, Shin said I would leave it all to him. Don't you think so little of me? Krieg spoke angrily, not only wanting to face himself alone, but also using himself as capital to offset the debt. He had never suffered such humiliation. Taking off the round shoulder armor on the left shoulder, a small barrel was exposed in the center, with poison gas bombs placed inside. Go to hell, you brat. Tisk. The round-headed red cannonball was fired at Shin. Judging from the reactions of the surrounding pirates, it should be quite toxic. Unfortunately, it had no chance of exploding. Water-style water barrier. The water spit out from the mouth formed a wall of water, tightly wrapping the gas bomb and carrying it towards the depths of the ocean. You're so merciless, your partner is still here. That guy who is blocked by emotions is no longer worthy of being my subordinate. Shin was very unhappy. It should be said that he was very unhappy as early as when Krieg attacked Sanji in the restaurant. Water-style Grand Falls technique. The sea beneath his feet rose, and a ring rose in front of Shin. With the release of chakra, the ring turned into a circular plane, and the water flow carried the surging momentum and impacted the surrounding wreckage and pirates. This move is not to kill the enemy, but to rush the pirates and Krieg away from Baratie. Seeing that the distance was close, Shin Tashi followed and separated 2 shadow clone at the same time. Who the hell are you? Standing on a slightly larger piece of wreckage, surrounded by about 100 of his men, Krieg yelled at Shin that he had never seen such a fighting method. I'm Uchiha Nobu, a ninja. The 3 letters spoke at the same time and started forming seals at the same time. This was a move he had envisioned, but he was confident in releasing it. Earth-style wall, fire-style great fireball. Wind-style great breakthrough, composite ninjutsu, flame monument. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 33 The Banquet After the Incident. Shadow Clone was the first to use the earth flow wall. It should not be said to be an earth flow wall, because the dirt spit out from its mouth is directed towards the air. With the release of chakra, the soil gradually turned into a huge stone monument, covering many pirates. Just when the stone slab was about to return to the embrace of gravity, the great fireball released by the body arrived and dragged it underneath the stone tablet, delaying its fall, and the flames gradually covered the whole body of the stone tablet. Finally, under the catalysis of wind-style great breakthrough, the stone tablet slowly rose, and the flames became more intense. Until the end of wind style, the burning stone tablet smashed downwards with great force. Krieg was panicking. The armor on his body meant that he could not swim out of the attack range, so he could only attack the stone monument with his weapons crazily. Bullet. Useless. Concealed weapon missile. Useless. The sword mountain cloak and gas bombs did not help the situation at all. In desperation, he assembled his trump card, the king's gun. He roared and hit the stone tablet that had reached his head. Boom. The sound of the explosion was mixed with the sound of the stone tablet entering the water, as well as the screams of some pirates who managed to escape the attack range, but were injured by the hot waves set off by the stone tablet. Krieg was half successful. The impact of the stone tablet knocked him into the sea, but the king's spear created a crack, allowing him to avoid being covered by the stone tablet when he fainted. Shin was not very satisfied with this move. Although the results were impressive, the earth flow wall was not suitable for falling objects and the falling speed was too slow. But it's pretty good. Let's improve it in the future. After withdrawing his thoughts and dispelling the shadow clone, Shin half knelt on the sea, preparing to use the 5-food dragon to completely eliminate Krieg. Mr. Shin. Please show mercy. There were shouts in his ears, and Shin turned around with some confusion, only to see Jin rowing a small boat hard and heading here. Are you trying to persuade me to let Krieg go? Stopping the boat, Shin asked with a puzzled look on his face. He just wanted to kill you as well, Jin. That's what I brought upon myself, and I was derelict in my duty. Jin knelt on the boat, his forehead pressed tightly against the deck, and his voice was a little frightened. I know this is unreasonable, but please, let the leader go. I promise you that he will never step foot into Baratie again. Shin couldn't help feeling that the world was full of wonders, and that Krieg was sinister and cunning, but he had a ridiculously loyal Jin under his command. Alas, sighing, Shin helped Jin up. I won't attack again. If you can save him, then it's okay to kill him. Thank you. I will never forget this great kindness. After saying these words, Jin plunged into the sea with a sudden force. Wearing such a suit of armor, Krieg was still sinking. Looking in the direction of Baratie, he headed back to prepare to report the situation to Luffy. Ninja? Looking at the spiky head running on the sea, Sanji's tone was a little bit shocked and confused. The huge stone monument from before could be roughly seen even in Baratie. Ah ha ha ha, how is it? My partner is very powerful. Luffy patted Sanji on the back and laughed, almost making Sanji vomit blood again. Luffy, Akin begged me to let Krieg go, and I agreed. Suga. It doesn't matter, that's all. Nice, let her. Never mind, Captain. Luffy didn't care about this matter, and he had no intention of killing everyone. He happily gave Shin a thumbs up. Nami and others also returned to Baratie. Zoro was already asleep. The chefs around him were slightly injured, but with smiles on their faces. Victory. Well done, ninja man. Finally we can send away the handyman who stole food. Then let's have a party. Ouch. Something different seemed to be mixed into the cheers. Shin twitched his lips with a look of helplessness. In front of him, Luffy was cheering and shouting for a banquet. The chefs around him also shouted in agreement. After Ajin drove a small boat full of pirates to say goodbye to everyone, it was night. Baratie is brightly lit and bustling with people, and a party is unfolding in the restaurant on the first floor. Because they were all chefs, this banquet was unique. Some people ran to the kitchen to cook while they were eating, some people loudly promoted their own dishes, and some people quarreled over whose food was more delicious. Stand up. Usopp stood on the high platform in the center and boasted about the stories he had made up. Johnny and Joseph were playing two-person games below, Sanji was courting Nami, and Luffy was eating like crazy, stuffing everything he caught into his mouth. Shin sat in a quiet corner, with a pile of desserts in front of him and a fainted Zoro lying behind him. He has never been able to cope with such lively scenes. He is fine in front of acquaintances, but in front of strangers he will become the polite and good boy again. Won't you get involved? Jeffu came in, carrying a bottle of wine and handed it to the letter. Young people should be more energetic. Forget it this time, there is still a green algae head that needs to be taken care of. Pointing at Zoro who was still sleeping, Shin looked helpless. At this time, Jeffu took out a notebook from his arms and handed it over. Here, take it. This is my Grand Line's logbook. This is a great gift, thank you. He accepted the letter directly without any refusal. After all, they really needed it. Haha, compared to your kindness, this little thing is nothing. Watching Sanji teach Luffy a lesson while promoting his food to Nami, the smile in Tetsuo's eyes became even stronger. However, I still have to ask you a favor. What? Take Sanji away. This, Shin frowned, not because they didn't want to, but because Sanji didn't want to. If Sanji is unwilling, we can't force him to get on the boat. Don't worry, I will find a way to make him leave voluntarily. Zefu's eyes sparkled, as if he had made some kind of determination. The carnival didn't end until late at night, and Shinya couldn't help Nami's teasing and drank a lot of wine, which made Sanji extremely jealous. Luffy's stomach was round and his mouth was still moving subconsciously even when he fell asleep. The same was true for Usopp who was sleeping on the stage and was still muttering lies about himself. Johnny and the chefs were lying on the floor in a mess. Johnny and the two danced the dustpan dance for a long time. The chefs were also exhausted and almost all the food reserves were eaten. Shin was the most sober among the crowd. He first built a small earthen house with an earthen wall to cover Zoro, so as not to be stepped on by people who got up at night. Returning to the girl's bedroom on the melee, Nami hung tightly on Shin's body like an octopus. It took a lot of effort to place the octopus on the bed. After a busy day, Master Shin finally returned to the boys' bedroom. Because the space is so small, the beds in the boys' dormitory are all hammocks. Although they are a bit shaky, they give people a sense of peace of mind once they get used to sleeping there. Good night. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 34. Sanji finally joins. Maybe it was because he released too many ninjutsu yesterday, so Shin slept right into the afternoon. If it weren't for the noise coming from outside, he might not have woken up. Boss Jeffu. Thank you for taking care of me for so long. Your great kindness will never be forgotten by me. After scratching his prickly head, Shin walked out of the cabin. Except for him, all members of the Straw Hats stood on the side of the deck, watching the farewell scene in front of them. Sanji knelt down with tears in his eyes and thanked Jeffu on the second floor. The chefs who came to see him off were also in tears. Looks like we're finally going to have a chef. The letter turned around and entered the conference room on the second floor, where there was the pen and paper used by Nami to write the voyage diary. He wrote down the phone bug's number and the address of Kaya's home. He didn't know where to buy the phone bug. If Baratie didn't have one, he would have to let them trouble Kaya. The note was taped to the kunai, and when he walked out, the melee was already in motion. Johnny and Joseph were at the observation deck. Sanji, who was newly on board, got into a fight with Zoro for some reason. Luffy and Usopp insisted on having another banquet, but Nami gave them a scolding for not having enough supplies. Ah, Shin, you finally woke up. Luffy seemed to have seen a savior and hurriedly escaped from Nami's fist and ran behind Shin. Hey, you've slept for too long. This is Usopp. You just drank a little bit yesterday and are you still drunk now? This is Nami. This hedgehog is so stupid. This is Zoro. Hey, from today on, I am also your partner. If you want to eat, leave it to me. This is the new Sanji. Hello, brother ninja. This is Johnny and Joseph on the observation deck. Shin also responded to everyone in a while, especially looking at Nami. A shadow clone was created, responsible for sending the information on the kunai back to Baratie. Shin saw Nami, who was looking a little sad, and thought he was confused about whether to talk about Arlong or not. All eyes are on me. Shin raised his hands and shouted to everyone, and when he saw everyone's eyes turned over. I have an announcement. Nami has something to tell everyone. Wait. The conversation changed and the letter was directed at Nami, and he helped Nami make up her mind. Shin, who lamented his good deeds every day, nodded with satisfaction. Dwang, don't make a decision for me. Nami rushed up angrily and punched Nobu on the head. What's going on, Nami? Usopp asked confused. Zoro also crossed his arms and looked at the two of them. Luffy was already lying on the special seat and taking a nap. Only Sanji was in a bad state and pointed at the two of them in disbelief. Is it difficult? Could it be that you two are? As he spoke, he held his head with both hands and shook it vigorously. No. How can that kind of hedgehog be worthy of Miss Nami? Boom, there was a sound of head hitting the wooden board. Sanji, who made a random guess, became the second character to be punched by Nami. Looking at her friends in front of her, Nami gasped and hesitated a little until Shin's hand patted her shoulder, and she heard the words in her ears. Have more faith in your partner. Taking a deep breath, he smoothed up his short sleeves and exposed the Arlong tattoo on his left shoulder to everyone. 8 years ago, a group of fishman pirates came to my hometown, Coco village. In Nami's slightly choked voice, the playful expressions of his friends gradually disappeared. Luffy was grabbed from the special seat by Shin, put on a straw hat, and lowered his head in silence. The story this time is more complete than last time, with the dead Belle Mere, Aegean covered in stitches, the overturned house. By the end of the story, Nami was kneeling on the ground crying. Ah, bastard fishman. Sanji's whole body was ignited with fire, and he wanted to kick the fishman over right now. Zoro turned to look at the letter. You already knew this, right, hedgehog-head? After all, Shin didn't mean to be surprised at all, and he nodded in denial. Then give the order, Captain, what are we going to do? After hearing the inquiry, Luffy never responded. Shin was a little confused and went up to push Luffy's shoulder. Luffy, who was sitting cross-legged, fell backwards until he hit the deck with a bang, and a grunt came from his mouth. Sleep. Asleep. Even Shin, who has always been very tolerant of Luffy, couldn't help but have a hash appear on his forehead at this time. You stupid captain. Water-style Grand Falls technique. Ah. When Luffy was fished out by the letter, soaked all over, he happened to see Nami with tears on her face. He stepped forward and put his cherished straw hat on Nami's head. Although he fell asleep, Luffy listened briefly. Nami. You are the navigator of the future Pirate King. I will beat Arlong away. I want you to board my ship completely. A fishman? I wonder if there are any swordsmen worth killing? Although he was injured, Zoro crossed his arms and said. It's a pity that it's in human form, otherwise it could be made into food. Sanji lit a cigarette and said with some regret. It's just a fishman, leave it to me, Uncle Usopp. Although his legs were weak and trembling, Usopp's mouth was still hard. We will also come to help. Nami-chan, Johnny and Joseph from the lookout also shouted. Everyone. Nami's eyes were filled with tears again. It turned out that she already had so many reliable partners. Look, have more faith in your partners, Nami finally broke her tears into laughter. Although he has decided to go to war with Arlong, Nami is also ready to try the 100 million belly agreement. I don't want it, I'm going to beat Arlong away. Listen to me. Arlong will definitely not abide by the agreement, and it won't be too late to beat him up when the time comes. I do not want. Just let Nami give it a try. After all, she has worked hard for so many years to save enough. I'm going to beat Arlong away. How about we have a party first when we get there? That's okay. Let's have a party. Everyone on the deck looked at the cheering Luffy with dark eyes, wondering how he could be fooled by such a simple trick. A shadow clone was separated, holding a fishing rod, and deceived Luffy into taking him fishing. Shin led the others into the conference room. Although that agreement is just a trace of Nami's fantasy, since Nami wants to do it, let her try it first, right? In the conference room, Shin asked everyone. Both Sanji and Usopp were silent, but Zoro made a very crucial point. Then what if Arlong really kept his promise? Should we leave like that? If it had been before, I would have been in favor of just leaving. Nami was not sure about the attitude of her friends before. She only believed that Luffy would keep charging. She was not sure about the reactions of others. Now everyone is sparing no effort to express their support for Nami. If he really plans to leave like this, his friends may not agree. Even if it really abides by its promise, I will still take revenge on Arlong. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 35 Shin's Little Surprise in the Arlong Pirates. By the way, Here are some little surprises for everyone. After discussing the business, Shin suddenly remembered that he had packed some things last night, returned to the dormitory, and took out a package. During the banquet last night, I used Shadow Clone to search the bottom of the sea. With that said, the letter opened the package, revealing a golden light. There should be a lot that can't be found, but as expected of Krieg, there are about 6 million. Last night, while everyone was having a banquet, Confidence began to worry about his empty treasury, and he separated out a few Shadow Clone to make plans for the treasure. Ignoring Nami's eyes turning into Bailey, Shin told everyone about the arrangement of this part of the treasure. I am going to give 1 million to Johnny and Joseph. They have been working hard to guard the ship these days, which is also very hard. This is something that Shin had planned for a long time. In the past few days, everyone went to Baratie for dinner, and both of them stayed on the ship and guarded the ship conscientiously. They couldn't let others work in vain. Seeing that no one objected, Shin took out part of the treasure and gave the rest to Nami. After all, she was the only one on the ship who was suitable for managing money. Zoro has no idea about money. It is said that he used 3 million bandit heads in exchange for a bowl of fried rice. Sanji probably wouldn't give Zoro a dime after receiving the money. Not long after they boarded the ship, they became very uncomfortable with each other. As for Usopp and Luffy, who knows what weird things they will buy. I heard Luffy say that he wanted to buy a bronze statue before, but he didn't know what it would be used for. Shin didn't want to take care of these chores. If he had free time, he would like to study more compound ninjutsu. Of course, he still secretly kept a lot of money for personal use. Nami took the package with excitement and immediately got into the treasure pile. 100 million belly was enough, but her nature of loving money has not changed. It was already the morning of the next day, and everyone finally saw Nami's hometown, the Golame Islands. There is more than one village in Coco West. According to Nami, Arlong rules 20 nearby villages and towns. This also means that everyone is approaching Arlong's territory. 2 patrolling Murlocs have discovered the melee on the sea. They always sabotage passing ships. Unfortunately, they met their opponents this time. The 2 people who got into the water were about to destroy the bottom of the boat and bring the battlefield to the water they were familiar with, but they saw a hedgehog head waiting for them here. Magic Narakumi technique. Ah, no, I will never resist again. It sounds like the thing they fear most is a certain ruler. They grabbed 2 fishmen and returned to the ship, handing them over to Nami for identification. One of them has long black hair, pink fins on the back of its head, a hooked nose, red lips, fangs, and a lying silkworm. There is a tattoo of the word, love, on his forehead and an arrow tattoo on his chest. He is wearing a purple-blue flowered shirt with green cuffs and a blue belt around his waist. He is a carp fishman and is the friendship captain of Arlong's group, Awen. The other one was carrying a wine gourd and had pink skin, fins on his head, and wavy brown hair. There is a black wave tattoo on his forehead. Wearing a dark green top with a red flower pattern on it, a blue loincloth, trousers and sandals, with obvious hair on his hands, Salmon Fishman is the banquet minister of Arlong's group, Shioyaki. This is the fishman, he's so ugly. The 2 Murlocs on the deck were screaming, and Luffy curiously squatted beside them and poked them. Indeed, I have no desire to cook it at all. Sanji also looked at it curiously, but after seeing the real thing, he gave up cooking fishmen cuisine completely. Seeing the ugly appearance of the fishmen who used to be so powerful in the past, Nami also put down some of her fear of the fishmen, but her disgust remained unabated and she looked at the 2 fish fiercely. Now there is no need for Nami to put herself in danger. Shin was very satisfied with the 2 Murlocs who suddenly appeared. Originally, he thought about using the transformation technique to transform into Nami to meet Arlong. He was also worried that a man pretending to be a woman would be a little uncomfortable with being seen through. This time, it was better, although the species were different, but the gender is the same anyway. Arlong's gang has ruled 20 villages for 8 years. Naturally, many people have escaped to report this place. Just now, they have just eliminated a wave of Marines who came to look for trouble. I also met a parallel imported Commodore, the Pudding Commodore. Even the branch Commodore, who was still at the general level after all, was treated with a blister casually. Ha ha ha, we are noble fishmen, just humans, even a Commodore is nothing more than that. In Arlong's paradise, Arlong was laughing after hearing this, and this incident further stimulated his fish-human supremacy mentality. But he is not an idiot. He knows that there are countless strong people among humans. In order to avoid being discovered by the more powerful Marine, he still has to have a good relationship with the people in front of him. GGG, I have tried my best to cover it up for you. This matter is not my fault, Arlong. Wearing a gray marine robe with a hood on his head, what is noticeable are the 2 decorative ears on the top of his head and 3 rat-like beards. The colonel of the 16th Marine Branch, Mouse, is clearly a Marine, but he talks and laughs with the pirates. It is with his help that Arlong can rule stably for so long. Of course, we have been partners for so long, snapped. A stack of Baileys was slapped on the table. Arlong's voice also sounded. This is the money listed for this quarter, accept it. GGG. It's so generous, so I won't be polite. Colonel Mouse smiled happily when he saw the money and immediately collected it and stuffed it into his pocket. Then I'll say goodbye. If someone sees me here, I'll be in big trouble. Zauba. See off guests. There's a river in Arlong Paradise that connects directly to the sea. This is to facilitate the fish people's travel and fighting. The underwater is their home field. An octopus man swam over from the sea holding a big jar. It was Zauba whom Arlong called. Nu, come up here, I'll give you an octopus jar. Thank you very much. Colonel Mouse and several of his men crowded into the octopus jar. Colonel Mouse, who had his back to the fishman, also suppressed his smile. Dirty fishman. Looking at Colonel Mouse's back, Arlong's face lost the smile just now and became more ferocious. Dirty humans. The two are not true partners, they are just using each other. Brother Arlong. It's not good. Before Colonel Mouse had gone far, Xiaoyao and Arwen ran into the park, looking very panicked. Arlong was confused. These two fish were today's patrollers. Could it be that some powerful enemy had appeared? Yanshao, Awen, what happened? Nami, Dachi really collected 100 million belly. Xiaoyao was the first to speak, and Awen also added. She said to go home and take inventory first, and she will come to you with the money later. What? Did she really save enough? Arlong was surprised. 100 million belly was not a small amount, but he had no intention of actually keeping his promise. He couldn't let go of such a useful tool. Thinking of Colonel Mouse who had just left, Arlong suddenly had a sinister idea in his mind. A sinister smile appeared on his face, and he turned to look at his other right-hand man. Crowbio, you are the fastest in the water, go and chase Zauba and the others back. Just say I have a great business here to talk to Colonel Mouse. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 36 Thunder Dragon Parade, didn't you say we were having a party? The orange banquet is also a banquet. I don't want it, I want to eat meat. Okay, Usopp, take Luffy to the orange grove to play. After sending the captain away with a headache, Shin looked at the beautiful girl with wheat-colored skin in front of him. I made you laugh at Miss Nokagao. No, it's me who wants to thank you. She has short blue hair and a red headband. He has blue tattoos on his arms and upper chest. He is wearing a vest and trousers, and his bare feet are wearing flip-flops. Nami's sister, Nu Okagao, could still see Luffy yelling in the orange garden from the corner of her eye. Sanji was courting Nami who was sitting on a chair. Zoro was half lying on the floor resting, and there was Bin Bin in front of him, the polite hedgehog-headed boy. Nami should be very happy with friends like you. No, it should be said that Nami has brought us a lot of help. No, I still want to thank you for taking care of my sister. No, don't dislike our sudden visit. No, you were willing to lend a helping hand to help us deal with Arlong. This is a great favor. Are you two done yet? Nami couldn't stand it anymore and shouted that she was an idiot and stupid. How could she be so polite to her sister? He stepped forward and took Nu Ochigao's arm, rolled his eyes at the letter, snorted coldly, and left with Nu Okagao. Sanji ran out of the kitchen with a plate, happened to see this scene, and immediately rushed up to question. Asshole hedgehog, did you make Miss Nami angry? The dessert is good, but it could use a little more sweetness. That's my special orange ice, spit it out. Does the thief named Nami live here? A shrill voice came from outside the house. Nami's expression changed and she hurried out to check. Colonel Mouse blocked the door and was directing his marines to prepare for a search. What are you doing, marine? Nami said with an angry look. I am a leader of the Arlong pirates. If you take action against me, Arlong will not let you go. GGG. What are you talking about? Hearing this, the mouse smiled evilly. I just heard that there is 100 million Baileys of stolen money here, so I came with my men to receive it. 1.100 million? This precise number made Nami give up all illusions. The other party was obviously the person Arlong had found. With a trace of relief, she turned back and shouted into the house. Letter. Please. Copy that, Miss Navigator. A hedgehog-headed man walked out of the house leisurely and came to Nami. Who are you, kid? Are you trying to go against us, marine? Uchiha Shin is a ninja. Magic Narakumi technique. Without any unnecessary nonsense, Shin directly used illusions on several people, allowing them to face their deepest fears. I'm sorry, Marshal, I never dare again. Colonel Mouse, who had been showing off his power just now, instantly knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. What this marine should fear most is that the corruption case will be exposed and he will be sent to a military court. What are you going to do next? The letter asked. If you go to question Arlong, there will probably be no results. Holding the tattoo on her left arm tightly, Nami also made up her mind. Please read the letter and help me defeat Arlong. Isn't this what we agreed on before? After rubbing Nami's head, he was ready to fight. First, go to the Orange Grove and tell Luffy about this, catch Usopp who is trying to run away, gently kick Zoro out of his sleep, and then eat all the newly made desserts by Sanji. Yoshi. Preparations for the war are complete. What kind of preparation for war is this, you bastard? That's the dessert I prepared for Nuoki Geo-sang. This is the second time, you sweet-toothed hedgehog. Set off. The atmosphere in Arlong Paradise was gloomy, with several burnt murlocs lying on the ground. Just now, Xiaoyao and Awen suddenly spit out fireballs from their mouths, and the few unlucky ones who couldn't avoid them were hit head-on. Then the two of them disappeared with a bang. Arlong was so angry that he didn't know who to seek revenge from. Fire-style Great Fireball. Boom. The wall was exploded by a huge fireball, and 6 people walked out of the smoke. In the middle are Luffy wearing a straw hat and hedgehog-headed letter. Next to them are 1 yellow and 1 green. On the far side are the trembling Usopp and the determined Nami. Behind these people were Johnny, villagers and others. The villagers insisted on coming to help. Shin had to call Joseph and Johnny, who were guarding the boat, and entrusted them to guard the villagers and not to enter the battlefield. Which one is Arlong? Luffy asked first. Arlong's face was gloomy. It seemed that this group of people had caused Xiao Yao and Awen to do something wrong earlier. He didn't answer Luffy's question. He stared at Nami. Nami, you don't want your village. The threatening words turned into a groan. As soon as Arlong opened his mouth, Luffy determined who was the leader and punched him. Brother Arlong. Arlong, who fell in the ruins of the wall, waved his hand to stop his men who wanted to help him. His eyes looked at Nami again. Are these helpers the basis for you to resist me, Nami? Not helpers. They are my partners. The scared little girl she once was is gone, and with her friends by her side, Nami is now full of confidence. Really, I will tear your so-called partners apart one by one in front of your eyes and let you know the consequences of betraying me. Zalba. I know. The octopus fishman, with many strands of silver-gray hair, looks like a 5-pointed starfish on his head, a mouth like a trumpet, and 6 arms. He is the Zalba whom Arlong called. He came to the edge of the pool, held his mouth with one hand, and actually made a sound like a trumpet. As he shouted, the water surface began to rise, and a huge bull-headed sea beast broke out of the water and emerged. Moo, finish them off. The copper bell-like eyes looked at everyone, and 3 pairs of interested eyes responded to it. It looks delicious. A minotaur? What kind of food should it be made into? No, this sea beast is mine. Before Luffy and Sanji could make any move, Shin had already stepped forward to take on this opponent. Of course, it is not a contract to become a summoning beast. Not to mention that the sea beast in front of him is not qualified. Even if Shin wants to make a contract, there is nothing he can do. Until now, he still didn't know what to do with the summoning scroll. Let me try out a new ninjutsu. Don't overdo it, this is a rare cooking ingredient. That's right, this sea beast looks delicious, I'll try to keep it intact. Responding to Luffy and Sanji, and ignoring the murlocs, Shin walked to the edge of the pool. Pung! A shadow clone appeared next to him. Moo Moo had his mouth wide open and was ready to attack. The clone quickly formed 3 seals. Hi, Wei, Sea. Lightning style ground walk. He slapped his hands on the sea, and the thunder and lightning instantly crossed the water like a snake and wrapped around Momo's body, causing a paralyzing effect. But there were only a few thunder and lightning on the water surface, and more thunder and lightning shot underwater. The main body also completed the seal at this time, and also patted its hand towards the water. Water style 1000-eating dragon. Compound ninjutsu Thunder Dragon Parade. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 37. Well done, Usopp. Thousands of sharks formed by currents appeared on the seabed, and Lightning Style's ground-walking lightning had been prepared for a long time. As if injecting life force, the thunder and lightning accurately entered the body of each shark, and the originally somewhat transparent body instantly flashed with blue-white electric light. The sharks roared silently and launched an attack on Momo's body hidden under the water. Each bite could tear off a piece of flesh, and the electric current carried in the body would cause a secondary attack on the wound. Although they are both sharks, the Thunder Dragon sounds more hazy. The moo on the surface of the water was roaring to the sky, and the lightning in the shark's body also paralyzed it, and it couldn't even dodge. Try changing your look next time. Shin stood up, ignored Moo Moo, and turned his attention to the battlefield again. During the experiment of ninjutsu, there were also fishmen who wanted to attack Nobu directly, but they were stopped by Zoro and Sanji. These 2 people are extremely busy. They have to deal with a cadre each, and at the same time they have to keep their word without being disturbed. Luffy and Arlong have already started a duel. You punch me and I slap you back. You can see the health bars of both parties, they're all thick. Nami also picked up the 3-cut stick and fought hard to meet the enemy, but Usopp disappeared. That guy won't run away, right? Thinking of Usopp's previous performance, Shin inevitably made this guess. Boom. Multiple shadow clone were separated again and joined the battlefield, mainly to deal with ordinary fish. The 2 cadres should be left to Zoro and 2 people to deal with them. Especially Sanji, the new member needs a battle to prove himself. Fire-style Feng Xian fire technique. Several small fireballs were ejected from his mouth to help Nami deal with the enemies around him. Shin asked. Where's Usopp? He didn't really run away, did he? Have more faith in your partners. Usopp lured Shu out alone to deal with it. He was very brave this time. Yeah, I guess he'll be bragging to Kaya for a long time after winning. Most of the phone bugs on the ship are used by Usopp, but Kaya has never taken the initiative to call. It is probably because there is only one phone bug on the ship and she is afraid of delaying the official business. He nodded in approval of Usopp's behavior and patted Nami on the head. Don't lecture me on my words, idiot. HMPH. Nami rubbed his head and stuck out his tongue at the letter. At this time, there are only 3 enemies left in Arlong Paradise, Luffy versus Arlong, Zoro vs Hachi, and Sanji vs Crobio. Except for Luffy, who was still struggling, Zoro and Sanji were almost done fighting. Zoro asked for Johnny and Joseph's knives, and re-established the three-sword style. Xiao Hachi on the opposite side was even more brave. He took one in each hand and went directly to the six-sword style. But the number of swords does not represent strength. As Zoro understood a tornado move, Zalba was blown to the horizon. Sanji's side also went very smoothly. Crobio is a master of fishman karate. According to him, he has 40 levels. Unfortunately, before he could use his special move, he was taken away by Sanji with a mutton shot. How about it? How does it feel to be punched by a fishman whose wrist strength is 10 times stronger than that of a human? This level of strength is not even half that of old man Jeffu. You'd better take care of the green algae head over there. Sanji took a punch from Crobio during the fight, but he didn't seem to be injured. On the contrary, Zoro, who had no new injuries, lay down on the battlefield and fell asleep after beating Xiao Hachi. Hey, you insist on saying you don't want my treatment, you idiot. After confirming that Zoro was fine, Shin picked up Zoro and went to the crowd outside and asked. Sorry to ask, do you have a doctor here? I am. An uncle wearing sunglasses and a headscarf stood up. He is the doctor here, Dr. Nago. Can I help you? My friend was seriously injured before. He was only treated briefly at that time. Please give him another look. Give it to me. Instructing one person to go back and get the tools, the doctor pulled off Zoro's haphazardly wrapped bandages and saw the shocking wound. It's a miracle that I survived. After placing Zoro, Shin returned to the battlefield. Logically speaking, Luffy's strength is much higher than Arlong, but he can't help but always make some tricks. First they nibbled each other with Arlong, and then they snatched Arlong's teeth and stuffed them into his mouth to continue nibbling. It seemed that they were at odds with each other, and they had to compete with each other to see whose teeth were better. Seeing that his men were all dealt with, Arlong became a little more anxious. If he was besieged, he would definitely not be able to withstand it. Kicking Luffy away with his mouth wide open, Arlong ran towards the pool. The water was his home ground. And it can be attacked or defended. If he really can't be beaten, his speed in the water will be enough to escape. Shin-K will not just watch, and not participating in Luffy's battle does not mean that he cannot make some changes to the off-field environment. Earth-style castle wall. Arlong arrived at the pool first, and a huge stone wall rose from under his feet, completely blocking the road to the pool. Damn. Unable to help but curse, Arlong had to turn around hastily to deal with Luffy's attack. No longer thinking about playing around, Luffy's fighting skills came into play in an instant, suppressing Arlong and beating him into the house in the paradise. Arlong also took advantage of the situation and took out his own weapon, a serrated sword. The offensive was reversed, and the two began a new round of chasing. Usopp also ran over at this time, his body covered with dust and water, looking miserable. But his expression was extremely excited. Before anyone arrived, the boasting voice arrived first. Hey, everyone, I just killed a Kadri. That stupid mermaid has no power to fight back against my uncle Usopp's plan. Ha ha ha. Usopp ran wildly with his hands waving, shouting the good news. Because Shin was standing on the wall of Dolyu Castle, he couldn't help but look over and didn't notice the ground under his feet. Ah! Usopp you guy. Then he stepped on Zoro who was lying on the ground receiving treatment. As soon as the doctor removed the unprofessional sutures, Usopp stepped on the wound. Sorry. After bowing 90 degrees, Usopp ran away to avoid being beaten. Shin jumped down from the wall of Dolyu Castle and did not hesitate to praise him, giving a thumbs up to Usopp. Well done Usopp. You can face a powerful enemy on your own this time. Needless to say, I am a brave sea warrior. Nami also praised him immediately. Well done Usopp. You actually defeated that Kadri. It goes without saying that I am a powerful sea warrior. Sanji followed the formation. Well done Usopp. I've been wanting to step on that green algae head for a long time. Needless to say, I am a brave and powerful sea warrior. A mere green algae head is not taken seriously by this uncle at all. Ha ha ha. Even when Zoro was still dealing with his injuries and lying on the ground, he still struggled and shouted those words with a hoarse throat. Bastard Usopp. See if I don't chop your long nose into 3 pieces. Be quiet and don't move. I'm going to start sewing. The conditions here are limited and there is no anesthetic, please be patient. Ah. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 38. The end of the battle and the clones questioning. Look around you, this room was designed just for that woman to draw a sea chart for me. Although she is a lowly human being, her talent in navigation is absolutely unparalleled. As long as we have the sea chart she drew in our Murloc's ability to fight underwater. Even ruling the world is not a dream. I want her to draw charts for me for the rest of my life. Can you use that woman so efficiently? Use? During the fight, Luffy and Arlong came to a dark room with countless stacks of nautical charts stacked on the floor. The only thing that could be called furniture was the small desk and a cabinet full of books. This is the place Nami has not wanted to return to for the past 8 years, her studio. Whenever she has free time, Arlong will use various methods to force her to draw sea charts. Arlong never regarded Nami as a partner, but as an efficient and handy tool. Luffy, who always values his partners the most, looked gloomy and silently kicked the desk away. It was because of a room like this that she cried. Then there were the bookcases and the charts on the floor, all of which were destroyed by Luffy. No place she wants to be, let me destroy them all. Dodging Arlong's attack, Luffy was still destroying the surroundings wantonly, and the sea charts continued to fly out. Nami painted them bit by bit over the past 8 years, but she didn't feel sad at all. Instead, she seemed to be finally free. What are you doing, you bastard? This is the result of my 8 years. Unable to avoid it, Luffy was bitten on the waist by Arlong, and blood burst out. I'm going to completely destroy this place. Holding the fish's head with both hands to prevent him from leaving, Luffy gritted his teeth and said. 1 foot reaches into the air, passes through the shark head cap of the park building, and reaches the sky. Rubber tomahawk. The feet wearing slippers quickly descended and stepped on Arlong with unrivaled momentum. Wow! With a muffled groan, Arlong let go of his mouth, and the floor beneath him instantly cracked, and the impact of the rubber tomahawk trampled him from the top to the bottom. Arlong fell to the ground without making a sound, and the building that represented Arlong's ruling identity also began to collapse. Boom! Huge smoke and dust rose up, and people stared closely, eager to know the ending. I saw a lean figure pushing away the rocks and emerging from the ruins. Under the sunlight behind him, Luffy looked at Nami. Nami. You are my partner. The 8-year shadow was over. Nami's eyes were filled with tears, but there was a smile on her lips. She nodded vigorously. At this time, the villagers also burst into loud cheers. Great! Arlong is defeated. Hurry up and tell the people in other villages this news. People rushed to spread the good news to every corner of the Gomelo Islands. Really, why did you have to be so seriously injured? Why don't you just call me? Shin stepped forward and caught Luffy, who was about to fall. At this time, the wound on his waist was still bleeding, but leaning on Shin, he still smiled and said. Shin, I won. Okay, you are awesome. The friends also came over at this time. Nami was followed by Sanji. Zoro's wound had been sutured, and as for Usopp, he was dragged by Zoro's nose. Everyone, let's have a party. Luffy spoke excitedly. The letter had previously fooled him into having a party, but now that the battle was over, he couldn't bear it any longer. However, some unappetizing guy always appears, and a high-pitched voice comes. GGG. Well done to you guys. Arlong's is worth 20 million belly. You can go to other marine bases to claim this bounty. But the assets in Arlong Paradise come from improper sources, and we at Marine are going to confiscate them. Colonel Mouse walked over with his men, looking at the few people gloomily. Previously, Shin only used illusions to intimidate them, and because he was in a hurry to defeat Arlong, he didn't deal with a few people. Unexpectedly, he showed up again and wanted to take advantage of him. Handing the exhausted Luffy to Nami, Nobu suddenly appeared in front of the Mouse Colonel. With a kunai in his hand, he cut off the mouse's right ear without mercy. Ah! The arrogant mouse fell to the ground instantly, covered his ears and screamed. Shin had an idea in his mind, and since it was not the right time to take action when he was happy, he separated 8 shadow clone and took the mouse and his men out. Shin, you actually cut off other people's ears. It's really not straightforward, hedgehog head. You don't want to eat this, do you? Don't think about me cooking it for you, hedgehog head. And it's so disgusting, Shin. This is not what a maritime warrior should do, Shin. Listening to the partners expressing their opinions one by one, and thinking that I was still thinking about them just now, I suddenly felt angry and jealous. Water-style water dragon bomb. As for why Shin wanted to keep the mouse alive, of course it was for money. Because they were here to find pirates, it was not good to be too showy. This group of people did not come on a warship, but a low-key boat. On the shore, the rest of the people were solved by Shin, leaving only 4 people including the mouse. Clone number 1. Do you know who I am? The mouse shook his head in fear. I don't know. Snapped. Number 1 slapped the mouse on the face. You don't even know this. Indicated to clone 2 with his eyes. Tell them who I am. Doppelganger number 2 also followed up and said, Uchiha Nobu, he is a ninja. Nodding with satisfaction, number 1 looked at the other 3 marines. Do you know? The 3 of them suddenly spoke together. Uchiha Nobu, he is a ninja. Then number 1 looked at the mouse again. Do you know why I spared your life? The mouse shook his head. I don't know, snapped. Another slap hit the mouse's face. You still don't know. Doppelganger number 2 spoke. I'm here to ask for money. Looking at the 3 marines again. Do you know? The 3 of them nodded. For money. Looking at the mouse again. Before asking, the mouse made an aggrieved opinion. Brother, can you start asking from there? Also? Which branch are you from? Marine 1 replied. From branch 16. How many warships are there in the base? Marine 2 replied. Not many, only 2. How many troops are there in the base? Marine 3 replied. Small base, only about 500. What are the names of these 500 people? Mouse. Snapped. Look, you don't know. How many logistics chefs are there in the base? Marine 1. 10. How much food storage is there? Marine 2. About enough to feed 500 people for half a month. How many types of food reserves are there? Marine 3. Broken down, there are about 50 kinds. What exactly are these 50 plus reserves? Mouse snapped. Why don't you know anything? Please spare me, brother. I'll give it to you. I'll give you all the money I've saved over the years. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 39 Banquet. Can you go? Although I want to say it's all on me. But it's impossible to remove it completely, it will leave some scars. That's what tattoos are. In the small medical clinic in Coco West Village, Nami lay naked on the bed. Arlong was defeated. This tattoo that had been bothering her for 8 years was what Nami wanted to remove most, but Nami told her that it was impossible to remove it completely. No matter how high his level is, he will still have scars. Doctor, I have a pattern that I want. The first Usopp support song starts. Moving Coco Nishimura. That night, the entire Kokoyashi village was covered in laughter, bonfires were lit, and a grand banquet was unfolding. Usopp stood on a high platform and sang his own support song with a loudspeaker. Joseph had chopsticks stuck in his nose and danced with a dustpan underneath, making the onlookers laugh. He was dancing happily, but he didn't notice his partner sneaking away at all. Johnny had quietly hooked up with a beautiful woman in a pink skirt and danced a ballroom dance beside Joseph. This orange sundae is surprisingly good, it has the taste of orange but is not sour. Holding an orange sundae in his left hand and strawberry milk in his right hand, Shin walked among the various desserts at the banquet with a satisfied look on his face. I don't know when he started to get addicted to sweets, he always wanted to taste them when he saw them. It was rare for Sanji not to cook today. As one of the heroes, he was soaking in the crowd of women with a look of enjoyment on his face, and his nose was bleeding. What's wrong? What are you doing sitting here? Shin walked to an alley with a lot of desserts, where Zoro was sitting alone. Didn't you like drinking with others before? Did the doctor prohibit you from drinking this time? Zoro had a guilty expression on his face as if he had been caught doing bad things. He stuck his head out and looked around. He found that there was no one holding the height, and then he said, "No, I just want to be quiet today. You really can't lie. What you did just now was like a cactus growing in the wrong direction." A sweet-toothed hedgehog. Anemone who secretly drinks wine. Hey, Zoro, do you two know where I can find cantaloupe ham? Luffy asked the two of them hurriedly, holding a piece of meat in his mouth and 2 pieces of meat in his left and right hands. That's cantaloupe and ham. Just go get a cantaloupe and eat it with ham. When cleaning up the sweets, Shin basically went around the banquet hall and ate a lot of other food. Luffy's mind was spinning rapidly, and then he extracted the keywords. There's none here either. Luffy came in a hurry and left in a hurry. He was obviously very smart when fighting, but why was his IQ so low now? Shin couldn't help but feel a headache. The 13th Usopp support song, A Hero's Journey. Start. Nami, who had already finished her tattoo, also came to the banquet hall. It can be said that there are banquet halls everywhere. As long as you walk out of the hospital, you can feel the strong festive atmosphere. What are you going to do next? It goes without saying that if it weren't for me, those idiots would definitely be lost at sea. Nami-san, Nochigo-san, a slightly greasy voice sounded in their ears. This is the fruit wine I specially prepared for you too. It is the most suitable drink to enjoy with the evening breeze. Sanji held a plate and bent down to bring 2 glasses of fruit wine to the two of them. Nami didn't answer and quietly took the drink. She had seen Sanji's skills in Baratie before. Wow, it tastes delicious. Thank you for the fruit wine, brother Sanji. Nokagao and Sanji had only known each other for a short time, so he responded to Sanji out of politeness. Wow, it's great to be praised by Miss Nokagao. Sanji's eyes were filled with love, his hands showed his heart, and he half knelt in front of Nuokigao. If Nuokigao-san likes it, I am willing to prepare it for you every day. I can't say it's greasy, it's simply crazy. The 2 people who came to replenish desserts and wine couldn't help but said. This is the best thing. You can stay here, you pervert. I still have to leave the dessert recipe, so I can eat the desserts made by Nami. Huh? Sanji instantly looked back at the two of them with an unhappy expression. A hedgehog with a sweet tooth and a cactus with a drinking habit want to fight you. You injured green algae head, please step aside first, I'll take care of your eyebrows. Even if they are injured, I don't take the hedgehog and the kappa seriously. Today I will let you know the consequences of offending the sea chef. This is land, sea chefs should return to the sea and be arrogant again. How can a road idiot who will get lost if he walks in a straight line have the courage to say that this is land? Although the hedgehog has pink eye, he sees things very directly to the essence. This is Sharingan. Are you covering your head with cheese slices to block your view? You are really confident when talking to a black sea urchin. I will deal with you in the green algae head today. Come on, dealing with you is easier than eating a sundae. 1 glass of wine is enough for me to knock you down. Huh? I only need to take a break from cooking? Watching the 3 people quarreling and leaving, Nami couldn't help but hold his forehead and shake his head. 3 idiots. Really? I think the 3 of them are very interesting. Next to Nami, Nuokagao held his chin in his hands, his tone full of smiles. Really, every one of them is more reliable than the last one during the battle. Nami also couldn't figure out why the 3 of them were more stable than the other when they were fighting, but how could they be less reliable than the other in normal times? Especially Shin, who is usually very reliable, but when he meets Zoro and Sanji, he can't help but be venomous. Before she could finish complaining, an even more unreliable person came. Hey, Nami, do you know where I can get cantaloupe ham? Luffy came in a hurry with meat in his mouth and 3 pieces of meat in his left and right hands. What are you doing with so much meat? Nami couldn't help but punch his captain on the head. Luffy thought for a moment and came up with the answer. There isn't one here either, then he hurried away again. Why do they all look like this? The 36th Usopp support song, roaring magical craftsmanship. Start. Nami couldn't complain anymore, none of her friends were normal. Ha ha ha, seeing the helpless expression on his sister's face, Nokagao couldn't help but laugh. She pretended to be indifferent in front of the fishman, and pretended to be indifferent in front of herself. She hadn't seen Nami's true feelings for an unknown amount of time. What are you doing, new Okagao, are you laughing at me? Nami threw Nokagao down, stretched out her hand to scratch the itchy flesh on her waist, and her laughter gradually spread to Nami. Ha 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 ha, she also laughed, the kind of relaxed laughter that came from the heart without being frightened or burdened, filling every corner of Coco West Village. Ads by Bid Gear Chapter 40 Sailing and Bounty, Usopp Support Song. Number 365. The Last Battle, begins. The banquet lasted for 3 days before everyone in the village fell asleep. Nami dug out the treasure that she had saved for 8 years from the orange orchard. A lot of the gold had bloodline on it. It is not difficult to see how many dangers Nami had to go through for these treasures. He put all the treasures into large packages and dragged them into the house with great effort. Wiping the sweat from his forehead, Nami sat on a chair to rest. The sun was already coming out, and it was soon time to set sail again. She couldn't help but look at the photo frame on the table. In the photo, the mother and daughter were all smiling happily. Belmere, it's all over at last. Thinking of her experiences over the past 8 years, she couldn't help but feel in a trance, as if Arlong's hateful face was still before her eyes. Fortunately, those nightmare days were gone, and a smile appeared on her face. She continued to murmur to herself. I met some great friends, although they seem unreliable, they are all trustworthy partners. I'm going to sail soon. The only sea chart I drew before is the one I drew when I was a child. But it doesn't matter, from now on I will draw pictures for myself. When the sun rose, I picked up the pen on the table and left a letter and phone number, as well as 100 million Baileys. The moment he opened the door, Nami vaguely felt someone pushing him. Looking back, it seemed that Belmere was standing there, sending her daughter off to a new life with a smile on her face. Then, I'm leaving, Belmere. Nami couldn't help but laugh, her steps became brisk, and she wanted to take a walk around the village next. On the coast, the Melee docked here, and everyone was carrying supplies to the ship. Is this the last one? Shin asked after taking the box from Zoro. At this time, there were many boxes and packages piled on the ship. Yes, this is the last one. Zoro answered as he returned to the boat along the rope ladder, but suddenly a shout came from the shore. Brother Zoro, and everyone else. Oh, Johnny and Joseph, what's wrong? Shin stuck his head out and asked curiously. The shore was full of villagers who came to see off their farewells. The two of them posed in the crowd and said coolly. Although I still want to sail with my big brother. We also admire the partnership of big brothers. But we know that we are not strong enough and will only cause trouble for our big brothers. So say goodbye here. Thank you very much for taking care of me these days. Bowing 90 degrees to say thank you, the two of them came to say goodbye. After all, they were not formal partners, so it would be rude to follow them any further. What are your plans for the future? Zoro also stuck his head out and asked. Johnny and the two looked at each other. They had just made a decision on this issue not long ago. We are not going to be bounty hunters anymore. We will settle here. With the 1 million Baileys given by Brother Shin, we plan to start a small business. From the sea restaurant to Arlong Paradise, from Creek to Arlong, this short journey made them deeply aware of their own strength. While a few people were chatting, Luffy was bored to death on the boat. He was lying on the guardrail at the stern, looking ahead blankly. It's so slow. Why hasn't Nami come yet? Usopp, who was packing supplies, casually mentioned. Isn't she not planning to become a pirate? After all, the village has been saved. Maybe she will be happier if she stays here. Sanji, who was originally calm, suddenly changed his face and went up to grab Usopp's clothes. Are you kidding? If Miss Nami doesn't come, the point of me getting on the ship will be 95.78% lost. Hey, why did you join in? Of course it's to cook for the lovely Nami-san. Could it be that it's to make sweets for you, a hedgehog? Everyone, set sail. Nami, who was being discussed by several people, appeared at the back of the crowd, waving her hands and shouting. Although everyone was puzzled, they still followed the navigator's instructions and started to act. The Melee began to move forward slowly. Nami lowered her head and ran without saying a word. The agility she had developed over the years helped her pass through the crowd. Finally, he came to the coast, jumped, and landed steadily on the deck of the Melee's stern. Pulling up the short-sleeved t-shirt he was wearing, Sanji was ready to get a nosebleed, but wallets fell one after another from Nami's body. She took out a banknote and kissed it. She turned back to look at the people on the shore and showed a playful smile. Goodbye everyone. Oh, my wallet, Nami you guy. Come back here you little thieving cat. You can come back anytime you want. Take care. Thank you very much. As the melee went further and further away, everyone on the shore stopped shouting and watched their benefactor embark on a new adventure. Nagao handed Ajian a piece of paper. Here, take the new tattoo that Nami commissioned me to do. Is this a combination of windmills and oranges? Really, that kid? After all, Jien is just like a father to us. Nu Okagao said with a smile from the side, but found that the pinwheel that had been stuck on Ajian's hat was missing. Ajian, where is your windmill? I remembered that before, when Nami couldn't walk, she would always cry when she saw Jien's face. In order to make Nami happy, Jien put a small windmill on his hat. Later, after experiencing the Arlong incident, probably to make Nami feel better, the windmill has never been taken off. As for now, Ajian rubbed the corners of his eyes and said with emotion. That brat doesn't need a windmill to amuse her anymore. At the moment when everyone was setting sail, a meeting was being held in a certain room in the naval headquarters. He has green curly hair, wears sunglasses, thick lips, wears a white blue striped shirt and a marine cape. Naval Headquarters Lieutenant Commander, the King of Meetings, Branu, smacked the speech board with several bounty orders posted on it and said seriously. The new pirate, Monkey D. Luffy, has been out at sea. In a very short period of time, he has defeated Elvita, who has a bounty of 5 million, Colonel Menka of the branch, Buggy the Clown, who has a bounty of 15 million, and Buggy, who has a bounty of 15 million. The Beiji Crow with a bounty of 16 million, and the Fishman Arlong with a bounty of 20 million. Uchiha Shin, who claims to be a ninja, follows Straw Hat Luffy. Although his only record is defeating 17 million creeks, he is full of malice towards Marine. First in Baratie, an unknown seawater attack sank the warship of Branch Captain Hobody, and then attacked the base of the 16th branch and plundered the property in the base. At the same time, it has revealed more than one elemental attack method, and also has the ability to perfectly disguise itself as others and the ability to clone. Their strength is no longer something that the branch can deal with. Here, we propose to offer a reward to the two of them. Seconded, ads by Bid Gear.